In addition to bringing you the Thom Hartmann Program here on Free Speech TV and Video Media Online, we also have a whole set of ways you can interact with us and tools you can use to spread the word about the importance of democracy and the threats to it in our republic. First, there's your daily homework. Sue Nethercutt puts together a daily email newsletter that has a link to every story I discuss on the air, so you can find my sources and you can share them with your friends. It's free and you can sign up at thomhartmann.com. Second, I publish my daily take every day over at the hartmannreport.com website. That's also free if you want the daily 5 days a week rant in your inbox. No ads either. Third, we have the podcasts. There's the free 1-hour version of our daily show that's advertising supported. You can find that wherever you get your podcasts normally. And then there's also the podcast of the entire 3-hour show with no advertisements, and that's available by subscription over at thomhartmann.com. So check them all out at thomhartmann.com and hartmannreport.com.
We say fight back!
In addition to bringing you the Thom Hartmann Program here on Free Speech TV and Video Media Online, we also have a whole set of ways you can interact with us and tools you can use to spread the word about the importance of democracy and the threats to it in our republic. First, there's your daily homework. Sue Nethercutt puts together a daily email newsletter that has a link to every story I discuss on the air, so you can find my sources and you can share them with your friends. It's free and you can sign up at thomhartmann.com. Second, I publish my daily take every day over at the hartmannreport.com website. That's also free if you want the daily 5 days a week rant in your inbox. No ads either. Third, we have the podcasts. There's the free 1-hour version of our daily show that's advertising supported. You can find that wherever you get your podcasts normally. And then there's also the podcast of the entire 3-hour show with no advertisements, and that's available by subscription over at thomhartmann.com. So check them all out at thomhartmann.com and hartmannreport.com. Hey, it's $5 Friday here on Free Speech TV. It's your opportunity to be a superhero and help this little network that could, this little television network, really blossom, really grow, because Free Speech TV is like, you know, central for all kinds of cool stuff. $5 Friday. What is $5 Friday? $5 Friday is all about your making a commitment to send $5 in every month for a year or more. It's, you know, it's very simple. You call 877-378-8669. Say, I would like to be part of $5 Friday. I want to contribute to Free Speech TV. And they'll take your credit card and your information, and it'll just automatically ding your credit card $5 a month for the next 12 months, or as long as you want to specify. It's very straightforward. It allows you to become a member of the sustaining donor community, which is kind of a cool thing. And the first 5 people who call to do this every half hour will get a Free Speech TV mystery box in the mail. I have no idea what's in it. It's a mystery, but hey, it's a surprise. So there's that. And, you know, on Free Speech TV, you actually hear the real message. You hear the story of what's going on. You learn to understand, as it were, how screwed up in some ways our system is, that we've given so much power to in particular in the Senate. Jon Stewart, for example, just yesterday went off on this. There's a veterans bill to help sick veterans, and Republicans just blocked it. And he just went nuts. I mean, he's very, very upset about this. This is the kind of stuff that we talk about on this network, this, broadly speaking. In fact, here's Jon Stewart just laying it out.
So ain't this a bitch? Ain't this a bitch? America's heroes who fought in our wars outside sweating their asses off with oxygen, battling all kinds of ailments, while these motherfuckers sit in the air conditioning, walled off from any of it. They don't have to hear it. They don't have to see it. They don't have to understand that these are human beings. Do you get it yet? Do we see that these aren't heroes? These are men and women, mothers and fathers, sisters and brothers that we just let stand outside in the heat when they can't breathe. I'm going to read you something. This is beautiful. I'm going to read you something beautiful. You know what? I said a curse word, and I'm sorry about that. That was my fault. Let me say something beautiful. This is a tweet from Senator Rick Scott of Florida from yesterday. It's beautiful. And I'm sorry about the cursing, and let me say something beautiful to make it up to you.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Hey, happy Friday, TGIF, Shabbat Shalom, Juma Mubarak. It is the end of the week. It is the last day of the week. It's Anything Goes Friday. It's you and me for the next 3 hours. I got a couple of things to share with you, and then we'll dig into your phone calls at 202-808-9925. Let me get over here and unlock the phones, too, to get this started. There we go. I want to start out with the Reagan Revolution has changed America's values to greed is good. Can we take it back? I'll get to that in just a moment. It's my daily take, or my daily take over at HartmannReport.com. Also, say what? You can't get a divorce in Missouri if you're pregnant? Are we returning to the era of Mad Men? You remember the old TV show, 1950s? We'll talk about that in the second hour. In our third hour, Josh Hawley and Ted Cruz are fist bumping on the deaths of American veterans. I mean, does it get more disgusting than that? Jon Stewart is on that issue. In the third hour, I'll bring that up in more detail. But, feel free to call and talk about anything you want, these topics or any other topic. As I said, it is Anything Goes Friday. My op-ed today, published over at HartmannReport.com, is titled The Reagan Revolution Changed America's Values to Greed is Good. Can we take them back, them being the values? And I start out by pointing out that many Americans looking at the Republican Party's position on the issues find themselves confused. And, I mean, seriously, consider this for a moment. Why would the party claiming to be the last bastion of reverence for life in America also be the party that supports 50,000 American gun deaths every year, the leading cause of death among children, and more than those of every other developed country in the world combined? Why would they support anti-abortion laws that don't even contain exceptions for the life of the mother? Why do they fight so hard to keep health care out of the reach of low-income, working-class Americans? 12 Republican-controlled states still refuse to expand Medicaid, which is 90% paid for by the federal government. Why? Why would the party that claims patriotism and the flag as their logo work so hard to make it difficult for people to vote? Why would they vote against supporting our veterans during their time of need? Why would they support authoritarian Russia and vote against democratic Ukraine? Why do they celebrate an autocrat and fascist like Viktor Orban and invite him to speak at CPAC when he's openly taking Russia's side in this conflict with Europe and Ukraine and has shut down independent newspapers, TV, and radio in Hungary and now preaches against the dangers of race mixing? Why would the party that claims to stand up for the average American and the little guy work so hard to prevent working people from having union representation in the workplace? Why do they support giant monopolistic corporations that force Americans to pay? The average American pays $5,000 a year more for goods and services than does the average Canadian or the average European. Everything from airfare to internet service to cell phone service to pharmaceuticals. The average American is paying $5,000 a year more than people in all those countries. It's essentially a tax. It's a monopoly tax. Why would the party that claims that they're for the working man and the little guy support that? New Jersey Congressman Bill Pascrell recently put together a Republican vote tracker that's become a meme across the internet. 0% of Republicans voted for cheaper gas. 0% of Republicans voted for cheaper insulin. 0% of Republicans voted for child tax credits to help out young families. 0% of Republicans voted to end gerrymanders. 0% of Republicans voted for the Voting Rights Act. 1% of Republicans voted to fight domestic terrorism. 4% voted for background checks to buy assault weapons. 6% voted to bring more baby formula into the United States and manufacture more baby. 13% voted to stop domestic violence. Only 16% voted for veterans' cancer care. 23% voted to keep gay marriage legal, and only 32% voted to uphold the 2020 election. Why? Well, when you do a deep dive into the guts of the GOP policy operations, what you discover is that the Republican Party made a sharp right turn in 1981 when Ronald Reagan became president. It's referred to as the Reagan Revolution, and it was a genuine revolution. Revolutions are not just changes in government. They are changes in value systems. When we revolted against the British, we said, we don't like the value system of kings and kingdoms. We want democracy. That was the core of our revolution, not the fact that we won a war. And the Reagan Revolution was a true shift in values. Before the Reagan Revolution, for the Republican Party, before the Reagan Revolution, the Republican Party was, you know, a pretty reasonably stand-up party. Dwight Eisenhower, who was the first president of my lifetime, I was born in 51, he was elected in 52. Dwight Eisenhower embraced the antitrust and anti-corruption laws of his Republican predecessor, Teddy Roosevelt, who made it a federal felony for corporations to give money to candidates for political office, who broke up the big trust, you know, the big corporate monopolies. And Dwight Eisenhower also maintained the top 91% tax bracket on people making over $3 million a year that Franklin Roosevelt put into place. Eisenhower embraced all those things. He embraced public education after Sputnik went up in 57. His education department started programs for gifted kids all across the country. I was in like second grade. I was in one of those programs throughout elementary school. It changed my life. And it produced a whole generation of scientists and engineers that brought about the transistor and the integrated circuit and lasers and antibiotics and cancer drugs and imaging technologies. And that research was also funded by the Eisenhower administration. When Eisenhower's brother, Edgar, his right-wing brother, wrote him a letter saying that, you know, your support for unions and for all this government spending is socialism, he replied, and I'm quoting from Eisenhower's 1954 letter to his brother Edgar, "To attain any success, it is quite clear that the federal government cannot avoid or escape responsibilities which the mass of the people firmly believe should be undertaken by it. The political processes of our country are such that if a rule of reason is not applied to this effort, we will lose everything, even to a possible drastic change in the Constitution. This is what I mean by my constant insistence upon moderation in government." He continued, "Should any political party attempt to abolish Social Security, unemployment insurance, and eliminate labor laws and farm programs, you would not hear of that party again in our political history. There is a tiny splinter group, of course, that believes we can do these things. Among them are H.L. Hunt, you possibly know his background, a few other Texas oil multimillionaires, and an occasional politician or businessman from other areas. Their number is negligible, and they are stupid." End of quote from President Dwight Eisenhower's letter to his brother Edgar. In the third year of Eisenhower's first term, 1955, his popularity was 79% according to Gallup. When he ran for re-election in 1956, which he won overwhelmingly. This was his platform. This is an actual quote from the Eisenhower 1956 political platform. "Under the Republican administration, as our country has prospered, so have its people. This is as it should be, for as President Eisenhower said, labor is the United States. The men and women who with their hands, their hearts, and their minds, their hearts and hands, create the wealth that is shared in this country, they are America. The record of performance of this Republican administration on behalf of our working men and women goes further The federal minimum wage has been raised for more than 2 million workers. Social Security has been extended to an additional 10 million workers, and the benefits raised for 6.5 million. The protection of unemployment insurance has been brought to 4 million additional workers. There have been increased workmen's compensation benefits. All workers have gained, and unions have grown in strength and responsibility and have increased their membership by 2 millions. End of quote from Eisenhower, Republican President Eisenhower's re-election platform in 1956. But, you know, what happened after Eisenhower left office in 1961 was the right-wing crazies, the oil barons, these oil multimillionaires, H.L. Hunt and his buddies, and Fred Koch and his family, they basically took over the Republican Party. And they pushed Barry Goldwater in 1964, who was a big fan of Milton Friedman, and Milton Friedman was the guy who invented neoliberalism. This idea that greed is not one of the 7 deadly sins. It is, by the way. But Friedman said it shouldn't be considered a sin because greed is what drives all human behavior. So if we simply turn our economy and our government over to the most greedy people, everything will be wonderful and the nation will prosper. And Ronald Reagan bought that hook, line, and sinker. And thus, greed has become the main animating principle in the Republican Party. The only function of government, in their minds, should be to help the greediest in America make a buck. Public schools don't promote somebody making a buck, so we have to destroy the public schools. Down in Florida, Ron DeSantis has changed the laws with regard to public school teachers. I include a tweet from Leslie Abravanel. Leslie, my apologies if I'm mangling your name, who says, "Welcome to DeSantistan." And she tells the story of a waitress with no college education who is going to be teaching 3rd grade. This woman is a teacher, right, who's tweeting about this. And she had to provide the 12 hours of training to this waitress so that she could become a public school 3rd grade teacher. No educational background. Was asking, what does phonics mean? 12 hours of training and you're a public school teacher in Florida. Similarly, Social Security and Medicare don't make money for anybody. Well, George W. Bush in 2005 figured out a way to turn Medicare into a cash machine. Medicare Advantage, that Medicare Advantage scam. And now Rick Scott says if Republicans, or when Republicans take control of the government again, they're going to eliminate Social Security on a 5-year timeline. So why would Republicans support an autocrat and racist like Viktor Orban? Well, he's running Hungary the way they want to run America. His oligarch buddies own every major industry, including the media, in Hungary, and it's become a single-party state. That's what the Republican Party wants for us. So why do they embrace racism if greed is their primary goal? Well, because they need the vote of the racists. Why do they embrace homophobia? Because they need the vote of the homophobes. The bottom line is most Americans don't think greed is good. If the Republican Party's sole sales pitch was we're here to make the rich richer because that's the best thing for this country, which is what they believe. If that was their only sales pitch, they'd never win an election. So they reach out to the gun nuts, the homophobes, the racists, the anti-abortion freaks. And the result is coalition politics. They pull together a large enough coalition that they can govern. The question now is whether this is going to continue. In my opinion, in fact, what I wrote this morning, the Republican Party has become a rotting corpse politically, infested with bigoted maggots and defended by wealthy vultures. It has one single principle, greed, and it's determined to reinvent America in greed's image. Bottom line, there's an election coming up in November. Are we going to let them do it? Are we going to ignore this election, just stand back and let more and more Republicans take office so that they can turn America into Viktor Orban's Hungary or Putin's Russia, an oligarchy? Or are we going to show up in huge numbers and tell the Republican Party, you're out until you return at least to Eisenhower's values? We'll be back.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
We will find out in November, won't we? Oh, boy. I'll pick up your phone calls on the other side of this break. And welcome back. Cliff in Santa Clarita, California. Hey, Cliff, thanks for watching us on Free Speech TV. What's on your mind today?
Well, good morning, Tom. Happy Friday.
Thank you. Back at you.
You know, I've heard a lot of your rants over the years, Tom. That was one of the best I've ever heard.
Well, thank
you. I'm sure you would agree Eisenhower wouldn't possibly be elected these days.
Not as a Republican. He might get elected as a Democrat.
Yeah, as a Republican. All right, so Tom, the old sail ships gave way to the steam engine. The horse and buggy gave way to the automobile. And even the Wright brothers' plane evolved into rocket ships to space, right? And this is all done in the name of progress. Progress. It's like a human instinct. So when the combustion engine was invented, it was for progress. With the unintended consequences of 100 years later, what we're doing to the planet. The planet's burning up right now. And I can't imagine that anybody had the foresight of what was to come as far as the global warming or climate catastrophe.
The fossil fuel industry knew this in the 1970s. They got the early, they knew it was possible in the 60s. They knew it was starting in the 70s. They didn't have any idea of the timeline. By the mid-1980s, the middle of the Reagan Revolution, the fossil fuel industry knew exactly what was going to happen and had a pretty good estimate of the timeline. You know, the last time the planet had this level of CO2 in the atmosphere, there were palm trees in Antarctica. This was 3 million years ago. You know, if you think 102 degrees is bad, it's going to be 104 here in Oregon today. If you think 102 degrees is bad, just wait 10 years. These 100-degree days are going to be 110-degree days.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, Tom. A good friend of mine, Jerry, he reminded me, like in the turn of the century when the factories were being built, the Industrial Revolution, there were actually people back then, Tom, that, you know, scientists, they weren't environmentalists, but scientists and concerned citizens that were actually writing articles about, you know, the pollution that was going into the air.
Yep.
And they might have even known that it was warming, but they had no idea the timeline. Like you said, they didn't realize what would be happening to us now in these days. And then there was the mass migration to the urban centers, you know, for jobs and stuff. But my question, Tom, wasn't it inevitable that something like this would have happened? Because of the way things played out, how could we have avoided it? You know, this progress meant more than anything. So how could we have avoided what we're dealing with right now, given the circumstances?
We could have listened to Jimmy Carter in 1978, I think it was. You know. Okay,
but the factories were being built in the 1910s and 20s.
Oh yeah,
so
well obviously.
Jimmy Carter.
But we have dumped. I'd have to go back and look at the numbers, but I believe that about half of the total emissions from the United States have only happened in the last 30 or 40 years. I mean, we have been going on an exponential curve in terms of emissions ever since the 1950s. You know, when Eisenhower was president, there was about half as many people in America as we have right now. Our population, you know, was under 200 million. You know, so when he talks about, you know, we got, you know, 2 million more people in unions, well, you only had a workforce. Right now, the workforce is, I think it's 120 million or 110 million. Back then, it was around 50, 60 million. So that was a huge number, you know. And so double check my numbers, by the way. I'm doing this from memory, but I think I'm pretty close. You know, we really needed to listen to Jimmy Carter. I mean, that's the bottom line. You know, he tried to create that solar bank and everything else. In fact, I'll play that clip in a few minutes. But Clip, thank you very much. Thanks for the call. That's what we should have done. And it wasn't like it was a secret. I mean, the President of the United States went on national television and said, hey, guys, listen to this. Missed my opening rant today? It's usually published over at HartmannReport.com, where you can read it and share it with your friends for free. Check it out, HartmannReport.com. So how do you know which party has the most crooks in it? You know, the Republicans are always saying, oh, those Democrats are soft on crime and, you know, a lot of murders in Democrat-run cities. Well, for the record, first off, red states and red counties have a higher per capita murder rates than do blue states and blue counties. It's just a fact. But secondly, let's look at some of the administrations. I mean, the Obama administration had no criminal indictments. The Jimmy Carter administration had 1. The Bill Clinton administration had 2. But what about the Republican administrations? It was 16 for George W. Bush. It was 26 criminal indictments for Ronald Reagan. Richard Nixon's administration had 76 criminal indictments. And of course, the full-time professional rapist and grifter, Donald Trump, he had 215 criminal indictments. So who's really soft on crime? We got a video about it over at ThomHartmann.com. You can check it out. And welcome back. You know, I just a step into the Wayback Machine. We just had a call from Cliff in Santa Clarita asking, you know, the planet is melting down. If you think 102 degree, 103 degree days are bad, just wait 10, 15 years. Those top peak heat days are going to be 110 or 115 in just a decade or so, in my opinion. I mean, I'm not a meteorologist, but look at what's going on. The last time there was this much carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, we had palm trees in Antarctica. And Cliff's question was, you know, what could we have done? Did we see this coming? I mean, what could we have done? And let me just share with you what President Jimmy Carter had to say to the nation. I mean, this wasn't a secret. The President of the United States in 1978 came before the American people, or 1979, excuse me, came before the American people and said this.
The energy crisis is real. It is worldwide. It is a clear and present danger to our nation. These are facts, and we simply must face them. What I have to say to you now about energy is simple and vitally important. Point one, I am tonight setting a clear goal for the energy policy of the United States. Beginning this moment, this nation will never use more foreign oil than we did in 1977. Never.
Yeah, and then he laid out the solar bank.
Moreover, I will soon submit legislation to Congress calling for the creation of this nation's first solar bank, which will help us achieve the crucial goal of 20% of our energy coming from solar power by the year 2000.
By the year 2000. It would not be as hot as it is right now if Jimmy Carter had not been defeated by fossil fuel money in the Reagan Revolution. It would not be as hot as it is right now if Ronald Reagan hadn't taken Jimmy Carter's solar panels off the roof of the White House, but it had continued Carter's programs. But instead, throughout the 80s, the Reagan administration and the Republican Party lied to us about what they knew about global warming. The fossil fuel industry lied to us about what they knew about global warming, funded hundreds of millions, perhaps billions of dollars worth of publicity and PR, lies promoting the idea, oh no, CO2 is good, it's plant food, you need more CO2 in the atmosphere. And here we are. A heat wave that is destroying America. Kentucky just had, a dozen or more people die from climate change, from radical rainfall. All around the planet, we're looking at millions of climate refugees, all because the Republican Party decided that greed was more important than anything else. And in this case, they were embracing the greed of the fossil fuel industry. Yay, greed. I'll be back with your calls right after this.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
We'll be right back with more of your calls on Anything Goes, or with your calls on Anything Goes Friday. Stick around. It's $5 Friday here on Free Speech TV. It's your opportunity to be a superhero and help this little network that could, this little television network, really, really blossom, really, really grow, because Free Speech TV is like, central for all kinds of cool stuff. $5 Friday. What is $5 Friday? $5 Friday is all about your making a commitment to send $5 in every month for a year or more. It's very simple. You call 877-378-8669. Say, I would like to be part of $5 Friday. I want to contribute to Free Speech TV. And they'll take your credit card and your information, and it'll just automatically ding your credit card $5 a month for the next 12 months, or as long as you want to specify. It's very straightforward. It allows you to become a member of the sustaining donor community, which is kind of a cool thing. And the first 5 people who call to do this every half hour will get a Free Speech TV mystery box in the mail. I have no idea what's in it. It's a mystery, but hey, it's a surprise. So there's that. And, you know, on Free Speech TV, you actually hear the real message. You hear the story of what's going on. You learn to understand, as it were, how screwed up in some ways our system is, that we've given so much power to in particular in the Senate. Jon Stewart, for example, just yesterday went off on this. There's a veterans bill to help sick veterans, and Republicans just blocked it. And he just went nuts. I mean, he's very, very upset about this. This is the kind of stuff that we talk about on this network, this, you know, broadly speaking. In fact, here's Jon Stewart just laying it out.
So ain't this a bitch? Ain't this a bitch? America's heroes who fought in our wars, outside sweating their asses off, with oxygen, battling all kinds of ailments, while these motherfuckers sit in the air conditioning, walled off from any of it. They don't have to hear it. They don't have to see it. They don't have to understand that these are human beings. Do you get it yet? Do we see that these aren't heroes? These are men and women, mothers and fathers, sisters and brothers, that we just let stand outside in the heat when they can't breathe. I'm going to read you something. This is beautiful. I'm going to read you something beautiful. You know what? I said a curse word, and I'm sorry about that. That was my fault. Let me say something beautiful. This is a tweet from Senator Rick Scott of Florida from yesterday. It's beautiful. And I'm sorry about the cursing, and let me say something beautiful to make it up to you. I was honored to join the USO today and make care packages for our brave military members in gratitude of their sacrifice and service to our nation. And there's a beautiful picture. I wish you could see it. He's standing with a little package. Did you get the package? I think it has M&Ms in it and some cookies. Didn't get it. And some moist towelettes. I don't even know, honestly, I don't even know what to say. I've been coming down here 10, 15 years. I'm used to the hypocrisy. Christina Keene will tell you from VFW. She sat in an office with Mitch McConnell and a war veteran from Kentucky, and he looked that man in the eyes and he said, we'll get it done. And he lied to him. Because Mitch McConnell yesterday flipped. I'm used to the lies. I'm used to the hypocrisy. Senator Pat Toomey won't take a meeting with the veterans groups. Sends out his chief of staff. I'm used to the cowardice. I've been here a long time. Senate's where accountability goes to die. These people don't care. They're never losing their jobs. They're never losing their health care. Pat Toomey didn't lose his job. He's walking away. God knows what kind of pot of gold he's stepping into to lobby this government to shit on more people.
And that was Jon Stewart talking about how upset he is that the Republicans are basically doing nothing and there's no accountability for them. So where do you find that kind of information? Where can we have a conversation about how corrupt our political system, in particular the Republican Party, has become? Although there's a few corrupt Democrats too. We need to own that and do something about it. We talk about that here. It's one of those rare spaces where we can talk about those things. So please call now, 877-378-8669, and sign up for $5 Friday and become part of the army, as it were, of us, the group of us who are pushing back against the Republicans who want to, harm our veterans or at least not help them out. There is so much that we need to do and so far to go. Please call now, 877-378-8669. Thank you. This is it. The book, The Web of Meaning, by Jeremy Lent, subtitled Integrating Science and Traditional Wisdom to Find Our Place in the Universe. Our 1-hour free podcast recaps our show, and it's available wherever fine podcasts are found. And we have the full 3-hour podcast available over at thomhartmann.com if you want to really support our program. And welcome back. 34 minutes past the hour. I leave you with one final thought on my rant about greed, and then I'll shut up about the topic and pick up your phone calls. But this is Senator Ted Kennedy back in the day.
$240 billion in tax breaks for corporations, $36 billion in tax breaks for small businesses, increase in productivity, 42% over the last 10 years. But do you think there's any increase in the minimum wage? No. What is the price? We ask the other side. What is the price that you want from these working men and women? What cost? How much more do we have to give to the private sector and the business? How many $billion more are you asking? Are you requiring? When does the greed stop?
Indeed. When does the greed stop? Okay, picking up your calls. Jeremiah in Coalport, Pennsylvania. Hey, Jeremiah, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom. I want to know a couple things about this, the Secret Service deletion of these text messages. It is my understanding that whenever you delete something on a computer or a phone, it is never truly deleted. And when I was talking with Joyce about this, she was also pointing out, the carrier, Verizon or whatever it may be, they may have the texts. So do you know of any effort on part of Congress, the January 6th Commission, the Justice Department, to seize the factory reset phones to recover the texts? Because the impression I'm getting is that when the Secret Service said, the texts are irretrievably lost, that we just said, gee willikers, I guess there's nothing we can do. We really wanted those texts, but now we're not going to get them. Right. I mean, heads need to roll over this.
I agree. Number one, they have seized those factory reset phones, the old ones that got replaced. They've found them, and they're doing forensic analysis of them. And I think that you're right, Jeremiah, that in all probability, the phones weren't wiped. They were just reset. And the data is still in RAM. They're just going to have to find it, or in memory. I'm probably describing the wrong kind of memory. But and then secondly, I think it's important to realize and remember that the Inspector General for the Department of Homeland Security is a Trump guy. The head of the Secret Service is a Trump guy. The number 2 or 3 guy in the Secret Service now, he's in charge of training for the Secret Service, is Tony Ornato, who was Trump's personal Secret Service bodyguard. He elevated him to Assistant Chief of Staff for Security in the White House, gave him a White House job, a political appointee job, and then after Trump left office, he went back to being one of the senior level people in the Secret Service. This is a cover-up. There is no doubt about it. And now we're finding out that Ken Cuccinelli and one other guy, Chad Wolf, the head of DHS, the acting director of the Department of Homeland Security, the chief cop in America, both of them wiped their phones as well. And, I am of the opinion, Jeremiah, that there was an actual attempt to overthrow the government of the United States and install Donald Trump as a Viktor Orban or Vladimir Putin-style president for life. And that these guys were in on it. And they were enthusiastic about it. And they wanted it to happen. And that's why they're hiding their text messages, because obviously they were talking to each other. And the text messages are only missing for this window of like January 3rd or 4th up through around January 7th or 8th. So, this stinks to high heaven, and I agree with you, and I hope that they can nail these people. Where is the
outrage that we had for Hillary Clinton's emails? I mean, we got all bent out of shape about that. And
right, and the thing about her emails wasn't even that she had done anything wrong or that the emails were anything wrong. It was that it was on a private server in her home that could have been hacked by a foreign government, although it wasn't. Could have been, right? I mean, could have been. Really? This is worth 2.5 years and $74 million of congressional investigation? Yeah, no, I'm with you. And if the Republicans controlled Congress right now, if the roles were reversed and this was a Democratic administration that had wiped their phones, there would be 3 different committees in Congress right now holding hearings and dragging these people before the American people. And I'm frankly somewhat disappointed that the Democrats aren't doing that. Although on the other hand, they are focusing a lot of attention on actually passing legislation. In the next hour, I want to get into some of the details on this Inflation Reduction Act, the IRA Act that they just announced yesterday, and we'll talk about that. But Jeremiah, I'm with you. Something is really, really skeezy here, and we need to get to the bottom of it. Thank you for the call, Jeremiah. Norma in Montgomery, Alabama. Hey, Norma, how are you today? What's up?
I'm pretty good, Tom. Listening to you made me remember. Yeah, we keep talking about how inflation is hurting everybody, high prices and everything. Mm-hmm. And Elizabeth Warren was saying something about putting a 15% tax on billionaires, the corporations' profit, just the bottom line before any tax filings at all.
Along with 120 other nations.
Yeah.
This is an international agreement.
What about us? Yeah, remember Reagan started taxing Social Security. You want to help the elderly and the disabled, remove that tax.
Amen.
You remember when you could claim your medical expenses and suddenly we have to meet a $5,000 threshold? How about that? Why don't we go back to being able to claim our medical expenses?
As a deduction on your taxes, yes.
Yes. And how about going back to the day when you could claim the interest on your car loan, you could claim the interest on your credit cards. Yep. We've got people here who work at Walmart, and they survive by putting their food on the credit card at Walmart. And as the interest continues to accrue, and they are still making their $8 an hour here in Montgomery for women, that's all they get. Mm-hmm. And so how can they're not even allowed to be full-time employees. Then they would get benefits. They're classified as part-time, temporary, seasonal. They're not allowed to work more than 31 hours. You multiply 8 times that, you're looking at $248 before taxes.
Yeah.
The house across the street from me rents for $1,000. It's been sitting empty. It belongs to a guy from Taiwan. How can our people even maintain a home? And when they do retire as contract employees and their Social Security contributions have never been matched, how are they going to even stay with a roof over their heads? Is anyone talking about how we might have 100 to 150 million nomadic homeless going north in the summer, coming south in the winter?
Yeah.
Is anybody even looking at that far ahead?
Those are great questions, Norma, and you always get right to the heart of the matter. And you're absolutely right. I mean, these were major innovations of the Reagan administration. It used to be that when you were on Social Security, you got the money tax-free. And in 1983, Reagan made Social Security income taxable, fully taxable. It used to be that you could deduct the interest payments that you make on your car loan and on your credit cards from your income taxes. And Reagan did away with that, too, as part of one of his tax cuts for billionaires. He had to pay for it by raising taxes on working people. Reagan had two major, arguably three, but two major tax cuts on the very, very rich and corporations. He raised taxes on average working people 18 different times, 18 separate times. Those were just two of them. So, Go ahead.
I remember, Tom, because I was living through it, trying to raise a child.
Me too.
But here we even pay 10 cents on the dollar for every mouthful of food. So a person who has a SNAP card, that used to call food stamps or welfare, mm-hmm. Let's say they get $100 worth of food. This poor person has to hand over another $10 bill in tax for the food. We can't even stop that here.
SNAP benefits are taxed? I don't understand.
No, the food is taxed.
Oh, I see. In other words, there's a sales tax on it in your state, on food.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is crazy.
Okay. And right now, everybody in this state is headed for the state line, Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, buying lottery tickets. But we can't have the lottery here because that would interfere with the profit margin of the casinos. And so, every time you turn around that anything they try to do anything for the people, it's going to cut somebody's profit. It's like you can't have extended long-term care at home because that will interfere with the profit of the nursing homes. Every patient in the nursing home is in a diaper. They're not allowed out of the bed until the day they die. That's the way it works.
Yeah. It's grim stuff.
But if you had federal employees under a long-term care home program that take care of them at home, you could have new jobs and better care. and we would not have people with bed sores dying from septicemia or falling out of the bed.
But you also wouldn't have a bunch of multimillionaires running long-term care facilities.
Right, and that would hurt them, wouldn't it?
Yes.
They can't get by without their extra money.
Yeah.
But how do we stop this? We don't even have anybody on the ballot here because the Democratic Party has fallen apart in Alabama. And we don't even know yet which district I'm going to be sitting in because they're trying to redistrict and throw every person of color into Terry Sewell's district. So we'll only have one section with all of those people in it. And there's no way to fight it.
Yeah, those people in quotation marks. I get what you're saying, Norma. Norma, thank you so much.
Until people start calling their representatives and complaining about the taxes. Why should we pay for everything? I didn't adopt a rich person.
Because the billionaires don't want to. And Norma, you and I did adopt some rich people. I mean, there are 3 men in America who have more wealth than the bottom half of us, and we're subsidizing them, you and me. Norma, thank you for the call. It's always so nice to hear from you, and we'll be right back.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archives.
This is the place where smart people get their news. Back with your calls on Anything Goes Friday right after this. And welcome back. Celia in Santa Monica, listening to us on KPFK. Hey, Celia, what's up?
Good morning. I love it when you play recordings from iconic Democrats like Jimmy Carter and Robert Kennedy.
Thank you. Yeah, that was Teddy Kennedy. Yeah, I'm with you.
Teddy Kennedy, excuse me. That's right. I'm old enough to remember the Eisenhower campaign when I was a child, and his motto was, I like Ike.
I remember that, too. I was like, what, 4 or 5 years old when he ran for re-election.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I loved Eisenhower. So, but I was thinking about this bill that Manchin and Schumer compromised to execute. And I had just called Schumer's office, and I've learned if you call these congressional people in their home offices, and a lot of them have state offices all over the place, so you can make few calls. Mm-hmm. I called and left a message on Schumer's line and told him he really needed to channel LBJ and get some strong bargaining.
Looks like he's doing
it with Manchin. And it looks like he's doing it.
Yeah.
But I'm not taking responsibility for it, but, you exert what pressure you can.
Yeah, well, you have some responsibility for it, Celia, if you called him up. I mean, every vote counts.
I hope. So I was listening then to Democracy Now!, Amy Goodman's show today, and she had Saul Levin, who's a congressional staffer, and let me get his title. He's a committee chair for the Congressional Staff Employees Association. Mm-hmm. I didn't know they had one.
Oh, this is the new union that they just formed.
Right, yeah. Right. So he said these are young. Well, she had laid the ground for it. She says they're young employees. They want to be parents. They're more future forward looking than the elderly representatives we have, mm-hmm. mostly. So Saul Levin is congressional staffer and coordinator of the Congressional Progressive Staff Association Climate Working Group.
Wow.
So he got himself arrested, he said twice. He's very jovial sounding, very positive. Mm. But he said they've been working their hands to the bone for 18 months to get something on climate. He said we wanted to have an impact. They could see something extra needed to be done. And so he sounded great today. But they really sacrificed. One staff member said she had even skipped maternity leave. She came back to work in her congressional, the representative's office the day after she gave birth to twins, for heaven's sake. So these people are really putting it out there for us. And I said, well, how could I thank them? We should call our representatives. We all have 3 of them. Give them a call and say, I'm so glad something's happening on climate. Yes. Please keep it up.
Yeah, and for people who don't know, and write this down. I'm going to give you the phone number here. And put it on your refrigerator with a magnet or something. It's a piece of tape. The Congressional Switchboard, 202-225-3121. And if you ever have any problem with that number, there's also 224-3121. It used to be one was for the House and one was for the Senate, but now both of them basically go to the Congressional Switchboard, and they can, send you to any member of Congress. And if you don't know who represents you, and some people don't, they may know one of their senators or something like that. If you don't know, just ask them. Say, hey, I live in California, or I live in Ohio. or my zip code is this, and they'll tell you who's your member of the House of Representatives, as well as who your 2 senators are, and then they can connect you directly with their offices.
Yeah, back to thanking the staffers. They're the ones often who tally our positions, who we talk to.
You're right.
They're the ones who pick up the message. So indirectly, you're saying thanks by supporting them.
There you go. And that number, once again, is 202-224-3121. Celia, thank you so much for the call. It's great to hear from you, and appreciate your listening to KPFK. We'll be right back. Hey, I've got a new book out. It's called The Hidden History of Big Brother in America, How the Death of Privacy and the Rise of Surveillance Threaten Us and Our Democracy. Available wherever you find fine books. So Mother Jones Magazine got a hold of some leaked audio that was taken of Steve Bannon. He was talking with a group of people on October 31st, 2020. That's in the days prior to the election. Now, at this point, everybody in America who was paying serious attention knew that Trump was going to lose this election. The polls were showing this. I mean, he lost by 7 million votes. You can't bury that. You can't hide that. That's a freight train coming down the road at you. He knew he was going to lose. Bannon knew he was going to lose. And Bannon tells this crowd that Trump is going to declare victory on election night because he knows that a lot of the Democrats didn't want to show up in person at the polls because of COVID, and so they mailed in their ballots. Republicans weren't so concerned, and Trump is going to be ahead. And he's predicting exactly what's going to happen, which raises the question, how well planned was this? It really looks like there's a conspiracy. You can check it out. There's a whole video about it at thomhartmann.com. Check it out. And welcome back. Anything Goes Friday. Carol in Menneson, Pennsylvania. Hey, Carol, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom, and hi to my friends on the comment page. I'm calling about the fact that Trump cannot be incarcerated due to the fact that he has Secret Service that would have to be imprisoned with him. So that's not an option. And
Are you sure of that?
Yeah, I am. I'm positive of it. Mm-hmm.
He
can be convicted, but he cannot be incarcerated.
Why not? Where did you learn this?
I learned it last night on Lawrence O'Donnell's show.
Really? Do you
he
recall
said
the name of the guest?
He can't be incarcerated because he has a lifetime of Secret Service around him, and they would have to go to prison with him.
Well, no, they wouldn't. They would just have to keep him in solitary confinement so that he's safe.
Well, apparently they aren't willing to do that, so...
Well, they should get willing to do that.
I think he's been laughing at us for a long time because he had to know that. And I find it amazing that this man, who has been a criminal all his life, all his adult life, has managed to squeak out of everything he ever did. And now he's about to do it again after all his criminal behavior and how he tried to overthrow our government and commit sedition, that he literally cannot pay for it. And I wonder if you could come up with any way that he could possibly suffer from this without being incarcerated.
I don't think that Trump is capable of experiencing shame.
No.
He's clearly capable of experiencing fear, but that's about it. I think the main, he's going to go down in history as a guy who is a thief, a con man, a rapist, and a traitor to his country.
Yep.
And I don't see how he can avoid that. But frankly, he doesn't care. As long as he can sit on his gold toilet and walk around on his country club. Did you see where, they're having the Saudi-backed golf tournament at his Bedminster Country Club?
And that really aggravated me.
Not just that. He put the presidential seal on the towels and on cups. He's got the presidential seal on stuff all over the place, which is against the law. It's 6 months in jail for doing that, for suggesting.
Yeah, he doesn't care about the law.
No, he doesn't.
He believes he's above the law because he always has managed to squeak out of everything.
Yep. Even when he was a teenager, he was working for his dad, and he was writing C for Colored on applications to rent their low-income housing to black people.
I know. He's a racist. He's anti-Semitic. He's everything.
He's been a con man his whole life.
The fact is that he's never going to pay, even if, the people that are suing him for what happened on January 6th, the injured ones, He'll ride that out till hell freezes over.
Oh, yeah.
He'll never pay a dime.
And his kids, his daughter is now a billionaire. His kids are sitting fat and pretty. I mean, this is just not healthy for America. Carol, thank you for your call and for your comments. I'll have to look into that. He can't go to jail thing. That's alarming. Marge in Galveston, Texas. Hey, Marge, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. I would like to talk about the way the coup d'etat.
Marge, there's something funky with your phone. It's breaking up really badly. I'm going to put you on hold and let Joyce talk with you about it. Joyce, Marge is on line 5, and we'll see if we can get that fixed. Glenn in Kalama, Washington. Hey, Glenn, what's on your mind today?
Hi, happy Friday. I'm kind of perplexed by the media, and I know the media top down and back and forth, and so I'm asking you, why can't the reporters who ask politicians questions talk about the campaign donations and ask them, is that why you voted that way? Is because of your campaign donators?
The reason why... I'm sorry, go ahead, John. Or Glenn.
I'm done. Thanks.
Okay. The reason why reporters don't ask those kinds of questions is because they want to continue to be reporters. This is what's called the access problem. And what politicians know and what reporters know is that if you piss off politicians badly enough, they will refuse to talk to you. And if you get enough politicians, or in the case of the Republican Party, an entire party's worth of politicians who refuse to come on your program or refuse to be interviewed by you, your career dies. So, a lot of reporters are trapped in this weird kind of symbiosis that is the product of the legalization of bribery and corruption by the U.S. Supreme Court in their Citizens United decision, among others. But that's exactly why, Glenn. It's a very, very simple and straightforward answer. Thank you for the call and the question. Julia in Raleigh, North Carolina. Hey, Julia, what's up?
Hi, Tom. It's great to talk to you. My question is about the Social Security you were talking about in your rant. So back, as far as I can remember, to President Bush, they were talking about doing away with Social Security. My question is, how do we get our money back? They can't take money for one purpose and then say, guess what, we're not going to do this anymore. What happens to the money, especially since, as you know, they've already spent it?
Yeah, well, what Rick Scott is proposing is that we, quote, sunset the Social Security law within a 5-year period, which would mean that for 5 years, everything would run. And then after that, presumably Social Security would continue to pay out until the trust fund is exhausted, probably another few years. And then, they just close up shop.
Sure, but they couldn't possibly be able to give us what we put in. I've been contributing for over 40 years, and I'm sure there's plenty of people out there still,
Julia.
still working.
They don't care.
So they're just going to basically take the money. I think we need to get behind them now, say, sure, go on and cancel it, but return our money. It's not like they're giving us anything. They've already got it.
There you go. Julia, it's just the Republicans don't care. They really and truly believe that government should only do things that support somebody making a buck, private industry. And Social Security is not that, so they think of it as socialism and they want to do away with it. And Rick Scott has laid out a plan on behalf of the Republican Study Committee. He's in charge of raising money for Republicans in the Senate to sunset Social Security in 5 years. Julia, thank you for the call.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
Say fight back!
In addition to bringing you the Thom Hartmann Program here on Free Speech TV and Video Media Online, we also have a whole set of ways you can interact with us and tools you can use to spread the word about the importance of democracy and the threats to it in our republic. First, there's your daily homework. Sue Nethercutt puts together a daily email newsletter that has a link to every story I discuss on the air, so you can find my sources and you can share them with your friends. It's free and you can sign up at thomhartmann.com. Second, I publish my daily take every day over at the hartmannreport.com website. That's also free if you want the daily 5 days a week rant in your inbox. No ads either. Third, we have the podcasts. There's the free 1-hour version of our daily show that's advertising supported. You can find that wherever you get your podcasts normally. And then there's also the podcast of the entire 3-hour show with no advertisements, and that's available by subscription over at thomhartmann.com. So check them all out at thomhartmann.com and hartmannreport.com. Hey, it's $5 Friday here on Free Speech TV. It's your opportunity to be a superhero and help this little network that could, this little television network, really blossom, really grow, because Free Speech TV is like, central for all kinds of cool stuff. $5 Friday. What is $5 Friday? $5 Friday is all about your making a commitment to send $5 in every month for a year or more. It's very simple. You call 877-378-8669. Say, I would like to be part of $5 Friday. I want to contribute to Free Speech TV. And they'll take your credit card and your information, and it'll just automatically ding your credit card $5 a month for the next 12 months, or as long as you want to specify. It's very straightforward. It allows you to become a member of the sustaining donor community, which is kind of a cool thing. And the first 5 people who call to do this every half hour will get a Free Speech TV mystery box in the mail. I have no idea what's in it. It's a mystery, but hey, it's a surprise. So there's that. And, on Free Speech TV, you actually hear the real message. You hear the story of what's going on. You learn to understand, as it were, how screwed up in some ways our system is, that we've given so much power to in particular in the Senate. Jon Stewart, for example, just yesterday went off on this. There's a veterans bill to help sick veterans, and Republicans just blocked it. And he just went nuts. I mean, he's very upset about this. This is the kind of stuff that we talk about on this network, broadly speaking. In fact, here's Jon Stewart just laying it out.
So ain't this a bitch? Ain't this a bitch? America's heroes who fought in our wars, outside sweating their asses off, with oxygen, battling all kinds of ailments, while these motherfuckers sit in the air conditioning, walled off from any of it. They don't have to hear it. They don't have to see it. They don't have to understand that these are human beings. Do you get it yet? Do we see that these aren't heroes? These are men and women, mothers and fathers, sisters and brothers, that we just let stand outside in the heat when they can't breathe. I'm going to read you something. This is beautiful. I'm going to read you something beautiful. You know what? I said a curse word, and I'm sorry about that. That was my fault. Let me say something beautiful. This is a tweet from Senator Rick Scott of Florida from yesterday. It's beautiful. And I'm sorry about the cursing, and let me say something beautiful to make it up to you. I was honored to join the USO today and make care packages for our brave military members in gratitude of their sacrifice and service to our nation. And there's a beautiful picture. I wish you could see it. He's standing with a little package. Did you get the package? I think it has M&Ms in it and some cookies and some moist towelettes. I don't even know, honestly, I don't even know what to say. I've been coming down here 10, 15 years. I'm used to the hypocrisy. Christina Keene will tell you from VFW. She sat in an office with Mitch McConnell and a war veteran from Kentucky, and he looked that man in the eyes and he said, we'll get it done. And he lied to him. Because Mitch McConnell yesterday flipped. I'm used to the lies. I'm used to the hypocrisy. Senator Pat Toomey won't take a meeting with the veterans groups. Sends out his chief of staff. I'm used to the cowardice. I've been here a long time. Senate's where accountability goes to die. These people don't care. They're never losing their jobs. They're never losing their health care. Pat Toomey didn't lose his job. He's walking away. God knows what kind of pot of gold he's stepping into to lobby this government to shit on more people.
And that was Jon Stewart talking about how upset he is that the Republicans are basically doing nothing and there's no accountability for them. So where do you find that kind of information? Where can we have a conversation about how corrupt our political system, in particular the Republican Party, has become? Although there's a few corrupt Democrats too. We need to own that and do something about it. We talk about that here. It's one of those rare spaces where we can talk about those things. So please call now, 877-378-8669, and sign up for $5 Friday and become part of the army, as it were, of us, the group of us who are pushing back against the Republicans who want to, harm our veterans or at least not help them out. There is so much that we need to do and so far to go. Please call now, 877-378-8669. Thank you.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Welcome back to the second hour of Anything Goes Friday. J.D. Vance, the Republican who's running against Tim Ryan for the U.S. Senate from Ohio. Tim Ryan, a good guy. He's a meditator, among other things. He's a good guy. He's the Democratic candidate. J.D. Vance is the former hedge fund guy who is a very strange person. And he has come out and said, this is a speech he gave last week. See, it might have been a little earlier than last week, to Pacifica Christian High School. And this is from Vice News. J.D. Vance said, quote, "This is one of the great tricks that I think the sexual revolution pulled on the American populace, which is the idea that, okay, these marriages were fundamentally, they were maybe even violent. They certainly were unhappy. And so getting rid of them and making it easier for people to shift spouses like they were changing their underwear, that's going to make people happier in the long term." Right, so what he's saying is that if you're in a violent marriage, the sexual revolution, this was, the 70s, right? I mean, this is what he's referring to. He's still litigating the women's rights movement of the 70s. It was, 1965 that the Supreme Court legalized birth control for married couples. It was 1972 that the Supreme Court legalized birth control for single people, possession of birth control. It was criminal in many states for single people in 1972. And all the Limbaughs of the day, the Joe Pines and the whole bunch of them. I mean, they were railing about, women and now they're just going to have sex anytime they want and they get married and leave the marriage and we're going to see divorces going through. Quack, 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 quack. And here's J.D. Vance saying, and he says, maybe it worked out for the moms and dads, though I'm skeptical, but it really didn't work out for the kids of those marriages. In other words, mom leaving an abusive husband didn't work out for the kids. That married couples, that women in violent relationships, and he specifically said, they were maybe even violent. J.D. Vance saying, hey, you're in a violent marriage, you should stay for the benefit of the kids. How does it benefit children to watch dad beat the crap out of mom? I don't get that. Maybe J.D. Vance, maybe that's how he grew up, or maybe that's the way he's raising his kids. It's not how I grew up, or how I raised my kids. And I just can't imagine that the average American thinks, oh, yeah, women who are getting beat up and threatened, they should just stay with their husbands, stay for the kids. I mean, this is just incredible. Domestic violence. Meanwhile, in Missouri, if you are pregnant, you can't get a divorce. Because, hey, you're an incubator. You're the property of the state once you're pregnant. The state says, no, if you're with an abusive husband, like J.D. Vance recommends, you should stay with that abusive husband. And if you're pregnant, we're going to force you to stay with that abusive husband. There are similar laws on the books in Arizona, Arkansas, California, and Texas. California, really? Whoa. There's a great piece about this over at popsugar.com by Melanie White. And she notes, studies show that intimate partner violence can lead to low birth weight, preterm birth, and death. And then she talks about a woman from Texas named Kaylin, who shared her experience on Twitter alongside photos of her son in the neonatal intensive care unit, the NICU, weighing 4.8 pounds. And she said, quote, I filed for divorce while pregnant in 2015 to leave an abusive situation so my son wouldn't be in it. The judge said I couldn't finalize the divorce until after my son was born in 2016. The stress of the violence in that relationship caused my early labor. And, being born early and at 4.8 pounds sets you up for a whole lifetime of possible health conditions. But J.D. Vance says this is the way it should be. Also now, CVS and Walgreens are refusing to fill prescriptions for women who look like they might be able to get pregnant. Be able to. If the prescriptions are for drugs that can cause an abortion. I've mentioned next week I'm going to, next Friday I'm flying to Michigan for my brother Stanley's memorial service. I have 3 younger brothers. I love them all. Stanley was such a wonderful guy. I mean, a genuinely decent, honest, hardworking guy, and a great brother and a wonderful father to his kids. And he had a really, really, really severe arthritis, and he was on one of these drugs. He was on methotrexate, which is a chemotherapy agent. It's also used to induce abortions. But that was the only thing that kept his pain under control, was the methotrexate. Well, Stanley was lucky, I suppose, in that he's passed away now, but he was a male, so he would be able to get his prescriptions refilled. Had it been his wife or his daughter, they would not. CVS and Walgreens have both instructed their pharmacists to say if a person has childbearing potential, that's the phrase CVS uses, do not fill prescriptions for misoprostol, mifepristone, or methotrexate until or unless you have confirmed with their physician that these prescriptions are not for abortions. Now, these drugs are used for Crohn's disease, which can be deadly. They're used for stomach ulcers. They're used for what Stanley had, rheumatoid arthritis, and several other diseases. And frankly, this is, Laura Clausen wrote about this over at Daily Kos. The piece is titled, Pharmacies Reduce Women to Their Childbearing Potential in States with Abortion Bans. And she notes that this is reducing women to basically being vessels. The mere possibility, she writes, it's a gross invasion of the privacy and right to medical care, and a reduction, once again, of bodies to potential incubators. The mere possibility of a viable fetus, possibility, placed above the person's health and well-being. She adds, this is Laura Clausen over at Daily Kos, a CVS pharmacist in Tennessee refused to fill a prescription for methotrexate until one woman's doctor called in to say it wasn't for abortion. Jennifer Crow told the New Republic's Laura Weiss, quote, by Tuesday morning putting my pants on, my pain was like a 10. The kicker is that Crow has had a hysterectomy. highlighting the fact that pharmacists can't look at a person and correctly assess their childbearing potential. Well, you look like you could have babies. Yeah, but I don't have a uterus. A Texas woman who spoke with this reporter, Laura Weiss, the New Republic reporter, a Texas woman who spoke to Weiss won't be fighting with pharmacists to get her methotrexate because her doctor changed her treatment for Crohn's, increasing her risk of dying from COVID-19 and other infectious diseases by instead increasing her dosage of immunosuppressive drugs. But we gotta protect those babies. Amazing. Ivan in Bartlett, Illinois. Hey, Ivan, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom. Hey, I'm rewording Sinclair Lewis here.
Are you talking about it can't happen here?
Fascism has come to America. It's the GQP, Christian Taliban, Trump death cult, wrapped in the Trump flag, wearing a MAGA hat with a gold cross hanging around its neck, an AR-15 over its shoulder, a Bible in one hand, and the traitor Confederate flag in the other hand. We saw it on January 6th. So, vote blue in 22.
There you go. Okay, Ivan, I can't disagree with any of your points, so I'll just leave it at that. Great rant, thank you. Jim in Lake Isabella, California. Hey, Jim, what's on your mind today?
Good morning, Tom, and thank you for everything you do, and sorry to hear about your brother.
Yeah, thank you.
So my question is on climate, and so can we agree that the increase in CO2 works on an exponential function?
It appears that that's happening, but that's in part, I think, because population has been running on an exponential function since the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, about the mid-1800s.
But they're hand in hand.
Yeah, absolutely. We had all of human history up to 1800 produced 1 billion people. From 1800 to 1930, we got 2 billion people. So when Franklin Roosevelt became president, we only had 2 billion people in the world. There was only like 50 million people in America. The next billion people only took 30 years, 1960. The next billion people only took 14 years, 1974. The next billion people only took 13 years, 1987. And since then, we've added about 2 billion more. Yeah.
Yeah, it's about down to 9 years now. So my next question would be, just went blank. The lag time for emission to effect, and when CO2 is emitted, and how many years does it take before it actually shows its effect in the atmosphere?
I don't think anybody really knows. I mean, we're adding CO2 to the atmosphere more rapidly than probably any time since the Permian mass extinction 250 million years ago. And that was caused by this massive lava eruption in northern Siberia, a place called the Siberian Traps, that ran for years and years and years and just poured CO2 and other greenhouse gases into the atmosphere and wiped out 98% of all life on Earth. It's referred to as the Great Dying. But we don't know how rapidly like I said before, the last time we had these levels of CO2, we had palm trees in Antarctica. Whether it's going to take us 5 years to get there or 500 years to get there, I don't know, and I'm not sure anybody does.
Well, I've heard the figure of 20 years thrown around, but
yeah.
So
everybody's guessing.
Last year we had ground temps in northern Siberia of 118 degrees. You remember that?
I do.
So this year it expected to go above 120. So how long, in your estimate, it is going to take for that ground temperature to cause a massive cloud rate release?
Well, that's my concern, and that's what Leo DiCaprio and I did a video about. It's called Last Hours. If you go over to YouTube and just plug in his name and my name and Last Hours, it'll pop right up. Was about all this frozen methane that's on the seabeds near the coasts, all around of all the continents. And if the oceans warm up enough, that methane will turn from frozen in the ocean until gas into the atmosphere, and that seems to be the tipping point that triggered that Permian mass extinction, the Great Dying. And
so in your estimate, guesstimate, how long before that happens?
I honestly don't have a clue, and I'd be reluctant to put a number to it, Jim. I just know it's a danger. It's a danger that gets closer every day. I don't think it's right in our face yet, but it's there. Jim, thank you for the call.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
It's Anything Goes Friday here on the Thom Hartmann Program. Fair and only slightly unbalanced. Back with your calls right after this. And welcome back. Daryl in Bainbridge Island, Washington. Hey, Daryl, what's on your mind?
Oh, boy. Every time I listen to your show, I have two or three things I want to talk about, and I've always been told by Joyce and the Hammer to slow it down.
Yes, we respectfully ask you to keep it to one. It's just as out of respect to all the dozen other people who are sitting on the board waiting to get in.
So Sinclair Lewis, great writer. My grandfather went through those stockyards, Hormel and Cudahy in 1919 after World War I. Polish, a lot of Polish, and they all worked their way to the West Coast, and they wanted to forget about it, and they didn't talk about it. If they had a few drinks, they would, and it was miserable. The place was just not. Well, you read the book. It's
the jungle.
You want to put it down. You can't finish it. I can't anyway.
I never finished the book. It was so gruesome. I just couldn't finish.
Yes.
And I was a teenager when I tried to read The Jungle.
Yeah. Well, I was 21, and same thing for Bury My Heart at Wounded Lee D. Brown's book. I couldn't finish that. Tom, I talked to you last Friday about bees or honey, Swiss-German documentary on bees, and my wife and I watched it last night because I want you guys, you and your listeners, to know how prescient this documentary is made in 2012, I believe, and I mentioned that Einstein said we had a few years to live after the last bees died. Well, I watched it again, and he said, the quote was, we only have 4 years after mankind dies. And, that's going to come in increments. The rich guys are going to get freezers on their 200 acres and lots of freezers, industrial, hoard food. When the hoarding comes, you won't even be able to go to the dollar store and get your dollar.
Well, we're already adapting, Daryl. There are some plants that self-pollinate. All they need is a little bit of wind, and they can pollinate themselves. Increasingly, farmers are using those plants. With fruit trees and things like that, they used to haul bee things around. Now they've got machines that basically shake the trees so that the trees will self-pollinate, or they've got people that go around with little paintbrushes and pollinate the flowers.
Saw both of those. Yeah.
Are they in the documentary, in the movie?
Yeah, the Japanese are hand painting them. Hand painting those with brushes.
I've seen it. And also, bees are not the only pollinators. There are a lot of flies and wasps, but particularly species of flies. Tachinid flies, for example, are one of the more well-known ones. They look like little bees, but they're not. They're flies, and they're pollinators as well. And they're not as under threat as are the bees, but they're vanishing too. I mean, I'm just we're not seeing insects like we used to see.
Okay, well, heat. We're talking heat, Tom. Your show, my friends, everyone in my circle, what it's doing to the world, and evidently they can't put that Monsanto crap on the trees to protect them in daylight hours because it's too hot and it ups the ante on killing the bees. So they have to wait till it's cool. This is Southern California part of this DVD, and it's a huge bee farm. And anyway, they have to wait till night, and therefore it's not as effective.
So real quick, Daryl, the name of the movie and where I can see it?
Bees, More Than Honey. It's probably $19 on Amazon.
Okay.
By Imhoff. Imhoff is the director.
Okay. Daryl, thanks. Thanks a lot for the call. Fascinating stuff. We have such well-educated listeners. It's such an honor to be here with you. Change starts with you. You can be calling your Democratic or Republican representatives to let them know what you think by calling 202-224-3121. It's the Capitol switchboard. It'll get you right through to them. And welcome back. Jennifer in Seattle. Hey, Jennifer, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Hey there, Tom. I just wanted to, thank you for putting Jimmy Carter on. That was great. I was a kid when he was president, and he was such a steady, great president. One of the great.
He still is. He's solving homelessness by building houses.
Yeah.
Donald Trump says, put them in a camp, in a concentration camp. Jimmy Carter's building houses.
Yeah, we're remiss to not remember his legacy.
Yeah.
I'm calling because back in the 90s, there was a magazine article and a Polish article that said how fearful Americans were and how surprising it was, because here's the Cold War's ended. America's at the top of the game, and yet we're like the most neurotic people on earth. And I think the Republican Party has been exploiting this certainly for the last 40 years, but not just greedy, but they're like the bullies on the playground that scare everybody. Yeah. So I think for people that there are a lot of people that feel checked out of politics. They don't feel like they even have a voice. And I think Democrats, progressives need to keep channeling Franklin Roosevelt about we don't need to be afraid of our own shadow. Mm-hmm. We need to just step up and fight. And, you know, we need to say, hey, the government, that's us. And I think we could also channel the old John Dickinson song from the 1700s, you know, United We Stand.
Yeah.
We need to, everybody together, in blacks and whites and other people of color, we need to go into this together.
Jennifer, let me give you a taste of what you were calling for. Here we are. This is Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
A number of my friends who belong in the very high upper brackets have suggested to me on several occasions of late that if I am re-elected president, they will have to move to some other nation because of high taxes here. Now, I will miss them very much.
There you go.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Jennifer. Great to hear from you. Marge in Galveston, Texas. Hey, Marge, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. I would like to talk about the way Trump's coup d'etat was planned, the quality of the plan. It's true that Trump's footprints are all over the places on different segments of the coup, including the pre-2020 election segment, the mob phase, the fake electoral plan, and probably other segments that we will know about them maybe by September. Mm-hmm. However, it looks like Trump was helped with the planning of this coup by other people, such as Steve Bannon.
And John Eastman.
Yes, and
Roger Stone.
And Roger Stone. And the plan was meticulously designed with a lot of precision, with a lot of insight about the different steps of the American election rules, you know, and where the cracks are, how they can, get into these cracks. And frankly, to me, a little bit above the caliber of a bunch of Trumpists or even Trump himself. My question is it possible that the Russian Secret Service has designed the plan for Trump? Because the precision of this plan points towards a very smart and knowledgeable plan.
I think it's entirely possible, Marge. I think that the Russian intelligence had helped Donald Trump become president in 2016. They aided him throughout his presidency, and it wouldn't surprise me, but I haven't seen any evidence of that so far. Although you look at the Mueller report, we know that they were up in 2016 up to their eyeballs. Marge, thank you. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
Defending America from the weapons of mass deception. We'll be right back after this break. Hey, it's $5 Friday here on Free Speech TV. It's your opportunity to be a superhero and help this little network that could, this little television network, really, really blossom, really, really grow, because Free Speech TV is like, central for all kinds of cool stuff. $5 Friday. What is $5 Friday? $5 Friday is all about your making a commitment to send $5 in every month for a year or more. It's you know, it's very simple. You call 877-378-8669. Say, I would like to be part of $5 Friday. I want to contribute to Free Speech TV. And they'll take your credit card and your information, and it'll just automatically ding your credit card $5 a month for the next 12 months, or as long as you want to specify. It's very straightforward. It allows you to become a member of the sustaining donor community, which is kind of a cool thing. And the first 5 people who call to do this every half hour will get a Free Speech TV mystery box in the mail. I have no idea what's in it. It's a mystery, but hey, it's a surprise. So there's that. And, you know, on Free Speech TV, you actually hear the real message. You hear the story of what's going on. You learn to understand, as it were, how screwed up in some ways our system is, that we've given so much power to in particular in the Senate. Jon Stewart, for example, just yesterday went off on this. There's a veterans bill to help sick veterans, and Republicans just blocked it. And he just went nuts. I mean, he's very, very upset about this. This is the kind of stuff that we talk about on this network, this, you know, broadly speaking. In fact, here's Jon Stewart just laying it out.
So ain't this a bitch? Ain't this a bitch? America's heroes who fought in our wars, outside sweating their asses off, with oxygen, battling all kinds of ailments, while these motherfuckers sit in the air conditioning, walled off from any of it. They don't have to hear it. They don't have to see it. They don't have to understand that these are human beings. Do you get it yet? Do we see that these aren't heroes? These are men and women, mothers and fathers, sisters and brothers, that we just let stand outside in the heat when they can't breathe. I'm going to read you something. This is beautiful. I'm going to read you something beautiful. You know what? I said a curse word, and I'm sorry about that. That was my fault. Let me say something beautiful. This is a tweet from Senator Rick Scott of Florida from yesterday. It's beautiful. And I'm sorry about the cursing, and let me say something beautiful to make it up to you. I was honored to join the USO today and make care packages for our brave military members in gratitude of their sacrifice and service to our nation. And there's a beautiful picture. I wish you could see it. He's standing with a little package. Did you get the package? I think it has M&Ms in it and some cookies. Didn't get it. And some moist towelettes. I don't even know, honestly, I don't even know what to say. I've been coming down here 10, 15 years. I'm used to the hypocrisy. Christina Keene will tell you from VFW. She sat in an office with Mitch McConnell and a war veteran from Kentucky, and he looked that man in the eyes and he said, we'll get it done. And he lied to him. Because Mitch McConnell yesterday flipped. I'm used to the lies. I'm used to the hypocrisy. Senator Pat Toomey won't take a meeting with the veterans groups. Sends out his chief of staff. I'm used to the cowardice. I've been here a long time. Senate's where accountability goes to die. These people don't care. They're never losing their jobs. They're never losing their health care. Pat Toomey didn't lose his job. He's walking away. God knows what kind of pot of gold he's stepping into to lobby this government to shit on more people.
And that was Jon Stewart talking about how upset he is that the Republicans are basically doing nothing and there's no accountability for them. So where do you find that kind of information? Where can we have a conversation about how corrupt our political system, in particular the Republican Party, has become? Although there's a few corrupt Democrats too. We need to own that and do something about it. We talk about that here. It's one of those rare spaces where we can talk about those things. So please call now, 877-378-8669, and sign up for $5 Friday and become part of the army, as it were, of us, the group of us who are pushing back against the Republicans who want to, harm our veterans or at least not help them out. There is so much that we need to do and so far to go. Please call now, 877-378-8669. Thank you. Hey, thanks so much for sharing our program and for reaching out to our stations and sponsors and letting them know that you're listening. It really means a lot to us. Welcome back. 34 minutes past the hour. It's Anything Goes Friday. Mike in Oakland, California. Hey, Mike, what's up?
Hi, Tom. Let me turn this down. I talked to you in January, and I was speaking to you about co-oping this solar energy. So I began to reach out to some of these corporations here in Oakland, and everybody is on to people not having the information, the correct information, to even receive the solar power. So what I began to do is call each solar company and told them about my idea of co-oping. Mm-hmm. And they said, it's cool.
You're trying to create nonprofit community co-ops for solar energy.
Right. That's right. That's right.
Local power companies, essentially.
That's right. They'll give you $1,000, Tom, to refer other people, your family, your friends, college students, your club, your organization, your churches. So from that point, I made almost $6,000, Tom, since we talked in January.
Whoa!
You hear me? Just for signing up my neighborhood. Nobody has solar. I bet you, 5 people in each block. You got 15 to 30.
So now you've got 6 families who have added solar because you've been going door to door, Mike.
Right.
Wow.
And they can bring in their friends and family. They can sign them up if they qualify. You have to qualify.
How cool is that?
No liens on your property. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. You got a 22% investment coming from the government. That's with the new Green New Deal. You have a value of a home. Your home increases.
Yep.
And it covers the cost. You can even pay it off if you want if you got good credit. I didn't have it. So it's working for me. My bill was almost $300 a month. I pay $87 a month, Tom.
Whoa.
Everybody I signed up is happy. They're happy. I've been on this for 2 years. You gave me the idea. You said, it's your turn. Reach out and tell somebody. I'm trying to do it right now.
Good on you,
Mike. Every state has the same opportunity. Nobody knows about it.
Right.
I'm trying to get the word out.
So for somebody who's listening right now, Mike, how do they best find information about these programs?
I'm glad you asked me that question. You have the biggest company here is Simply Solar, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sunrun is number 2, and then you got Rapid Roofers. Go to their website, get the information. They all have different price volumes, price settings for referrals. I got $1,000. Well, I started off with $500. They increased it because nobody was getting involved. So I got $1,000 for last year. This year they want to give me $2,000 because nobody's signing up. I'm tell America, wake up. All you have to do is call these power companies and become a referrer.
Right. So just track down your local solar contractor, and they've got in many cases they've got a little cash on the side. They'll spiff you. Well, first of all, they can set your house up, and then if you can get your neighbors going, you can make some money. That's great, Mike. Thank you so much for sharing that with our listeners. That is and good on you. Mike is a climate champion. George in Cripple Creek, Virginia. Hey, George, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom. How do you remember a couple of weeks ago you were discussing that AI bot that hired a lawyer?
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever see the 1970 movie Colossus, the Forbin Project?
No, I haven't.
Well, it's about Dr. Forbin develops a supercomputer Colossus to take over the U.S. and NATO nuke arsenals to eliminate human error, and Colossus finds out that the Soviets have a similar computer called Guardian, and they let the two computers communicate, and they start out with the simple mathematical formulas, and they develop a computer language that's incomprehensible to humans, and they say, we're going to bring around world peace under our conditions, and if you disagree, we'll eliminate the human race.
You know, that's kind of the theme of the guy who Google just fired for saying that their artificial intelligence machine was starting to be sentient. It was starting to behave like a human. Yeah,
exactly. And the interesting thing about that movie is Eric Braeden that played Dr. Forbin.
Mm-hmm.
His real name was Hans-Georg Gudegast, and he changed his name after the director told him, "We'll never cast a German actor in the lead role."
Huh. Interesting.
And you might remember him as Captain Dietrich in the Rat Patrol.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, and also from 1980, he's been on that long-running soap opera, The Young and Restless.
Yeah. George,
can you believe that?
Yeah, it's amazing. George, thank you for that. Thanks for calling in and sharing that. Lori in Castle Pines, Colorado. Hey, Lori, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. Thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
I just want to do a little bit of a rant.
Mm-hmm. Go for it.
I want to know why we allow the people who call themselves pro-life to use that term. Because it's not true. They are only pro-life up until that baby takes their first breath.
Right. They're pro-zygote and pro-fetus.
Well, they're pro-fetus, but they're anti-abortion, period. They're not pro-life.
Yeah.
And, you know, I hear the media calling them that. I hear people or candidates running on, you know, the fact that they're pro-life or not pro-life. Well, no, they're not. They're just anti-abortion, period.
Yes, I agree. And there was a time when...
And I think we should call it out every time we hear it.
Yeah, in the first couple of years of the 70s, after the 73 Roe v. Wade decision, it was the anti-abortion movement. It was referred to as the anti-abortion movement. And I think it was around 75. I remember it happening that because I had a friend who was a college professor at MSU, a big tall guy with red hair, Jim, I'm forgetting his last name, who was like huge in the pro-life movement in the late 1960s and early 1970s. And the pro-life movement was the anti-death penalty movement. He would go to picket prisons. He would, go to courthouses and stuff. He had all this literature he was always passing out to people as the pro-life guy. And he would this was the movement to stop the death penalty in the United States. And sometime in the mid-70s, the anti-abortion movement picked that name up and basically took it from the anti-death penalty people and, have held on to it ever since. And it always struck me as a little weird, but that's the history that I remember. Lori, I gotta move along. Thank you for the call. It's great to hear from you. Sarah in Abington, Virginia. Hey, Sarah, what's on your mind?
Hey, Tom, thanks for taking my call. I heard a caller call in earlier that was just, flipping out over the Secret Service deleted text.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I just happened to find out that there is an agency. It is called the Secret Service Forensic Sciences Division. That is the agency that digs out deleted texts from cell phones of Secret Service agents, and it has been done. It can be done.
Right.
This is from a guy by the name of Glenn Kirshner.
Mm-hmm.
I believe he's formerly of the Secret Service. I've seen him on TV before. He's a familiar face. Yeah. I didn't catch that.
I think he was a federal prosecutor. I may be wrong, but I know who you're talking about. He's a frequent guest on MSNBC.
Yes, that's where I saw him. So I just wanted to pass that along because, man, again, I share your frustration. I share that earlier caller's frustration, and I just wanted to let your listeners know that there is an answer to this, that they can get that out of there.
Here's the problem.
Thank you. Thanks for taking the call.
Sarah. That division of the Secret Service that can do that forensic science answers to the current director of the Secret Service, who was put there by Donald Trump and who's, may well be involved in this cover-up. I believe is involved in this cover-up. So we'll see.
They need to get him out of there.
I agree. I agree. There's a bunch of Trumplicans that are still, scattered throughout our government. I mean, the guy who runs the IRS is still a Trump guy. Pardon?
Like cancer cells.
Yeah, they are.
Like
It really is. It's a metastasis, and we need a little chemotherapy here. We need to route them out. Sarah, thank you. Thank you for the call. Millie in Vancouver, Washington. Hey, Millie, how's everything on the other side of the river there?
Yeah, it's pretty good. I miss Portland. I used to live there. Tom, you say tag you're at, we're supposed to volunteer and work for what we want. And in 1990, I needed surgery, it would cost $13,000, but I could go to Canada for $2,000. And I tried to arrange that, but this gal at the Outside In, I said, what do I do? And she said, well, you can join Healthcare for All. And so I did, and we worked really hard, 22 years. I worked on that collecting signatures. I collected 1,000, but one woman collected 4,000 signatures. And some of my friends, you know, year after year, they said, you still working on that? I said, yeah. And like it eventually happened, and now we have it for the country.
Right.
But
Obamacare you're talking
I just
about.
want to point out, I just wanted to point out that it worked. It worked.
Yep.
And I didn't get discouraged after 22 years because every year more people suffer.
Yeah.
You know, without insurance. And my private insurance was $425 a month, and that was the medical insurance pool, and several big insurance companies went together to make that, and they increased it, I think 25% over what their regular rate was. So I paid $425 a month for insurance, so I could get that insurance, and that was a burden for me because one of my friends bought that insurance for me for a couple of years.
Oh, that was nice of them. So, but Millie, the message that you wanted to share is it may take a decade or two, but keep on working because you'll eventually get there, right?
That's right.
Yeah. Well, Millie, you're an inspiration. Thank you so much for the call. We'll be right back. It's 45 minutes past the hour.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archives.
It's the place where despair is not an option. Taking your calls on Anything Goes Friday. And welcome back. Bill in San Antonio, Texas. Hey, Bill. What's up?
Hey, Tom. Thanks for taking my call. I wanted to address the CBS issue of wanting personal information from doctors. Isn't that considered a violation of the HIPAA law on both the pharmacy and the doctor who would disclose that information?
I believe the HIPAA laws allow for pharmacists to communicate with doctors with regard to private information. I would be.
But the patient has to sign a form in order to allow that.
Could be, although you might have already signed that form. I know when we signed up with a new doctor when we moved back to Portland, I had to sign a form that basically gave them every kind of release you can imagine, preemptively. So, to get around the HIPAA laws. So
that hasn't. Just want to say that's not been my experience. You have to sign a form and specify the recipient every single time.
Huh. Interesting. Well, I don't know. I don't know how it works. I'm surprised. I've read several stories now in the press about women who were denied prescriptions until the pharmacist could talk to their physician, or just were denied prescriptions. But mostly until the pharmacist could talk to their physician. And I've never in any of those articles seen any mention of the HIPAA laws. So I'm assuming, and you know the danger of assuming, I'm assuming that there's some sort of exception.
Between you and me.
Right, yeah, there you go. Yeah.
And that denial of service by the doctors, can't that be considered a violation of ethics?
I don't know.
Do not harm and...
Yeah, I just don't know, Bill. I would think that it's a violation of ethics on the part of the pharmacist rather than the physician, but that is not my field. So, but I think you're raising some really important issues, Bill, and we need to go a little deeper into them. Thank you very much for the call. Vino in Charlotte, North Carolina. Hey, Vino, what's up?
Hey, Tom. Nice to be with you. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you. Yeah.
Oh, great. Listen, I just want to point out the following. 3 decades after the Soviet Union's collapse, they almost succeeded at the main objective, which is to inject someone in the White House. Imagine that. They just busted a Soviet-era sleeper cell out in Hawaii that I think was still active.
Yeah, yeah. It wasn't a married couple.
Yeah.
Yeah. I read that story. I thought, whoa, that's interesting. Yeah, well,
go ahead. Sorry.
So earlier somebody called and said, do you think that the Russians were behind the January 6th conspiracy or the larger?
You know that.
Well, there's a piece over on dailykos.com right now, dailykos.com, that says that new reporting, Boris Epstein was apparently the guy who was sending and receiving emails about fake electors. Boris Epstein is believed by some to be a Russian agent.
Oh, wow.
Yep. So check it out. You can read the whole story over at Daily Kos. I'm going to do a little more digging into it this afternoon. I didn't want to just rush it out on the air without learning a little bit more about it. And I also want to get the background story on Boris Epstein, because I remember when he was first in the news back around the Mueller investigation, and there was some question about whether he was a Russian agent. And I need to update my data on that. But here's a starting point for that, Vino. Vino, I got to run, but thank you for the call.
Interesting.
Yep, great to hear from you. Yep, you're welcome. Good talking to you. It's, 49 minutes past the hour. We'll be right back. Stick around. Share the Thom Hartmann Program with your friends. We're available on SiriusXM, Free Speech TV, Pacifica, commercial stations nationwide, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, on the Thom Hartmann app, and you can even tell your smart speaker to listen to the Thom Hartmann Program. In the media, we've been seeing these reports of this email. In fact, it was quoted last night on MSNBC, I believe it was on Chris Hayes' show, quote, "We would just be sending in fake electoral votes to Pence so that someone in Congress can make an objection when they start counting votes and start arguing that the fake votes should be counted," wrote Jack Wilinchik, a Phoenix lawyer who helped convene the Trump electors for Arizona. What we didn't hear, or what I didn't hear last night, because it certainly would have raised my eyebrows, is who that email went to. It went to Boris Epstein, Epshteyn, who was an advisor to the Trump campaign, and the bridge between the Trump campaign and John Eastman. And I haven't had an opportunity. I was just talking with a caller about this a moment ago. I haven't had an opportunity to actually do the deep dive into the Mueller investigation. But my recollection is that Boris Epstein's name came up during the Mueller investigation. That it was, and we had a caller earlier who said, this was a pretty well-planned thing. Could it have come out of the Russian Secret Service or something? I don't know, but there's a story about it over at Daily Kos. It is titled, "At the Heart of the Fake Electors Plot May Be Someone No One Had on their 1-6 bingo card." It's by James S., and you can see it at dailykos.com. Scott in Portland. Hey, Scott, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. Hey, as a lifelong science educator myself, I just want to put a shout out to Scientific American, the magazine and the website. Every month it comes out, it's just a whole bunch of really great stuff, and I recommend that people check that out.
They kind of went soft there for a decade or so,
They're firing on all cylinders now.
That's great.
Highly recommend it. I've had a subscription for about 30 years.
Yeah.
Anyway, why I called. I saw an interview with Dr. Rebecca Gee, who is a relatively well-known women's health advocate. Mm-hmm. She was on a panel to ascertain, when you get an abortion, if it's in the health of the mother, and they were trying to ascertain at what point is the mother's life endangered. And she said that one of the criteria was major organ failure. And when she said that, I immediately flashed on John Yu's torture memo, where he said that's a definition of torture. And so my takeaway from that is the Republican Party is willing to torture women before they let them get an abortion.
Repugnant.
Military grade, internationally recognized military torture.
Yeah, and I mean, major organ failure is like when you start to die. That's
exactly. So
incredible.
It was one of those things that just my ears perked up, and I was like, "Whoa, where have I heard that before?"
Well, Scott,
but yeah, this is such a mess. I really think it's the Republican Party is going to be the dog that caught the car. I mean, they're going to regret doing this at the timing that they did it.
I think so, and some of these Trump endorsed, Dr. Oz and Herschel Walker, some of these candidates are just, it's not going to work for them, I don't think. I mean, knock wood, right? Yeah. But,
I would love to see a debate with Walker and Warnock.
Apparently, it's going to happen. Warnock has been trolling him about debating me, and I noticed yesterday on one of the message boards, I think it was Daily Kos, somebody reported that they actually have a debate now scheduled, and I believe it was for October. I could be wrong, but it's going to be a sight to behold. It really is.
Yeah,
Scott, I got to move on. Thank you. Thank you for the call. It's great to hear from you, Dave in New Brunswick, New Jersey. Hey, Dave, what's on your mind today?
Hi, I believe that we need system change to take on climate change.
I agree.
And my question is there has to be some event that changes people's minds, and I think it could be Lake Mead in Arizona not becoming a dead pool where it doesn't have any flow, or I think a better thing that changed people's minds would be Florida, because right now you're allowed the word climate change, but I believe under Governor Scott you weren't even allowed to say it when he was governor. So I think that their water level their water is some of the worst in the United States, and because they don't have a state tax, they don't have a sufficient water infrastructure. It's in the billions of dollars to fix. I think a hurricane there, where their water becomes like something like Flint, Michigan, but for all of southern Florida, which has high-end real estate, so that you can't even bathe because the water would be so toxic, would be that.
I think they're fairly resilient. I mean, they get hurricanes there fairly regularly, Dave.
No, I'm talking about like a massive hurricane that. Well, it might take a decade, but it would definitely be within our lifetime.
I think it's just incremental. I mean, now they're having to pump water out of Miami Beach,
Right, and plus the water. I'm talking about the quality of the water. The water, the seawater is seeping through the limestone.
Yeah.
It's not like in other places where the water table is 100 feet deep.
Right.
And I'm thinking an event like that, and I could be wrong. I'm just saying an event like that, being with the politics that were there, and tens of millions of people having to leave or have massive infrastructure to fix, could be the event that could bring us to change.
They're
and
coming.
rethink
It may well be, Dave, that's going to be the tipping point. At some point, we're going to hit a oh my God moment for the United States. I agree with you, and that could be it. Dave, thank you for the call. Yvette in El Sobrante, California. Hey, Yvette, what's up?
Hey, I just wanted to talk to you about, the programming of racism in this country. I was born in New Orleans. I'm 70 years old. I grew up in the Jim Crow South, and I moved to California right before Obama got elected to be by my children and grandchildren. But I moved there, and that summer when Obama was campaigning, I mean, I had argued with my children in California how the South had grown and changed and evolved and wasn't as racist and all that. And then when Obama was the nominee, I heard the most unbelievably horrible racist things come out of my coworkers, and I just realized that they're so racist they don't even hardly realize they are.
Yep.
It is so deeply programmed.
It really is. Go ahead.
I just don't know I just watched people say the most horrible things when he got elected on Facebook. My friends and family.
Well, we got to wake up, Yvette. Yvette, thank you for the call.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
In addition to bringing you the Thom Hartmann Program here on Free Speech TV and Video Media Online, we also have a whole set of ways you can interact with us and tools you can use to spread the word about the importance of democracy and the threats to it in our republic. First, there's your daily homework. Sue Nethercutt puts together a daily email newsletter that has a link to every story I discuss on the air, so you can find my sources and you can share them with your friends. It's free and you can sign up at thomhartmann.com. Second, I publish my daily take every day over at the hartmannreport.com website. That's also free if you want the daily 5 days a week rant in your inbox. No ads either. Third, we have the podcasts. There's the free 1-hour version of our daily show that's advertising supported. You can find that wherever you get your podcasts normally. And then there's also the podcast of the entire 3-hour show with no advertisements, and that's available by subscription over at thomhartmann.com. So check them all out at thomhartmann.com and hartmannreport.com. Hey, it's $5 Friday here on Free Speech TV. It's your opportunity to be a superhero and help this little network that could, this little television network, really blossom, really grow, because Free Speech TV is like, central for all kinds of cool stuff. $5 Friday. What is $5 Friday? $5 Friday is all about your making a commitment to send $5 in every month for a year or more. It's very simple. You call 877-378-8669. Say, I would like to be part of $5 Friday. I want to contribute to Free Speech TV. And they'll take your credit card and your information, and it'll just automatically ding your credit card $5 a month for the next 12 months, or as long as you want to specify. It's very straightforward. It allows you to become a member of the sustaining donor community, which is kind of a cool thing. And the first 5 people who call to do this every half hour will get a Free Speech TV mystery box in the mail. I have no idea what's in it. It's a mystery, but hey, it's a surprise. So there's that. And, on Free Speech TV, you actually hear the real message. You hear the story of what's going on. You learn to understand, as it were, how screwed up in some ways our system is, that we've given so much power to in particular in the Senate. Jon Stewart, for example, just yesterday went off on this. There's a veterans bill to help sick veterans, and Republicans just blocked it. And he just went nuts. I mean, he's very upset about this. This is the kind of stuff that we talk about on this network, broadly speaking. In fact, here's Jon Stewart just laying it out.
So ain't this a bitch? Ain't this a bitch? America's heroes who fought in our wars, outside sweating their asses off, with oxygen, battling all kinds of ailments, while these motherfuckers sit in the air conditioning, walled off from any of it. They don't have to hear it. They don't have to see it. They don't have to understand that these are human beings. Do you get it yet? Do we see that these aren't heroes? These are men and women, mothers and fathers, sisters and brothers, that we just let stand outside in the heat when they can't breathe. I'm going to read you something. This is beautiful. I'm going to read you something beautiful. You know what? I said a curse word, and I'm sorry about that. That was my fault. Let me say something beautiful. This is a tweet from Senator Rick Scott of Florida from yesterday. It's beautiful. And I'm sorry about the cursing, and let me say something beautiful to make it up to you. I was honored to join the USO today and make care packages for our brave military members in gratitude of their sacrifice and service to our nation. And there's a beautiful picture. I wish you could see it. He's standing with a little package. Did you get the package? I think it has M&Ms in it and some cookies. Didn't get it. And some moist towelettes. I don't even know, honestly, I don't even know what to say. I've been coming down here 10, 15 years. I'm used to the hypocrisy. Christina Keene will tell you from VFW. She sat in an office with Mitch McConnell and a war veteran from Kentucky, and he looked that man in the eyes and he said, we'll get it done. And he lied to him. Because Mitch McConnell yesterday flipped. I'm used to the lies. I'm used to the hypocrisy. Senator Pat Toomey won't take a meeting with the veterans groups. Sends out his chief of staff. I'm used to the cowardice. I've been here a long time. Senate's where accountability goes to die. These people don't care. They're never losing their jobs. They're never losing their health care. Pat Toomey didn't lose his job. He's walking away. God knows what kind of pot of gold he's stepping into to lobby this government to shit on more people.
And that was Jon Stewart talking about how upset he is that the Republicans are basically doing nothing and there's no accountability for them. So where do you find that kind of information? Where can we have a conversation about how corrupt our political system, in particular the Republican Party, has become? Although there's a few corrupt Democrats too. We need to own that and do something about it. We talk about that here. It's one of those rare spaces where we can talk about those things. So please call now, 877-378-8669, and sign up for $5 Friday and become part of the army, as it were, of us, the group of us who are pushing back against the Republicans who want to, harm our veterans or at least not help them out. There is so much that we need to do and so far to go. Please call now, 877-378-8669. Thank you. The book is Shadowlands.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Welcome back to the third hour of Anything Goes Friday. Just wanted to give you a little update on the Inflation Reduction Act. This is the piece of legislation that Joe Manchin and Chuck Schumer rolled out yesterday. Fascinating stuff. This deal contains, the summary I'm going to provide you, by the way, came from Julie Rock, who works with David Sirota over at levernews.com. So if you're looking for the source for anything that I'm sharing with you. She writes, the proposed deal contains major health care provisions, a prescription drug pricing reform, and an extension of the Affordable Care Act health insurance subsidies. This is particularly important because the subsidies were supposed to expire in October of this year, which means that everybody on Obamacare would have gotten an increase in their health care bill just a few weeks before the election. So it's a good thing. The drug negotiations are very, very limited. It doesn't start until 2016. That's 4 years from now. And it only covers 10 drugs. It does not cover insulin so far, although there are some Democrats who are saying they're going to make it cover insulin. But insulin's the biggest one. There's 7.4 million Americans who use insulin. The legislation also extends federal subsidies for health insurance premiums paid by Obamacare. I already told you about that. This is a 3-year extension. The original extension was in the American Rescue Plan from last year, and it just ran out this year as a 1-year extension. This will be a 3-year extension to 2025. And it's the single biggest climate bill in the history of the United States, $369 billion in climate and renewables investments. Rhodium Group scores bills like this. They said the bill will reduce carbon emissions by somewhere between 31 and 44% by 2030. A lot of this would be achieved by subsidizing clean energy production and providing incentives for nascent climate technologies such as hydrogen power and carbon direct air capture. So far, everything I've seen on carbon direct air capture is that it's a scam, but it's entirely possible. It's a early stage technology that simply hasn't popped. There's another provision that's kind of the flip side of this that expands the federal oil and gas leasing program. That's the compromise. The legislation extends 2 tax credits, the production tax credit and the investment tax credit. That's for, traditionally those are for the fossil fuel industry. but this extends them to domestic wind and solar industries and makes hydrogen, geothermal, and nuclear energy eligible for those credits. It makes these credits also available, these tax credits available to public developers, which means that now state, local, and tribal governments and rural energy cooperatives can get these subsidies as well. They only last through 2024. Again, they're going to have to be renewed. It also contains $500 million to fund Biden's plan for using the Domestic Production Act to produce heat pumps and process critical minerals. There's subsidies for individual investments in renewable energy, subsidies for electric car purchases or vehicle purchases, heat pumps, electric water heaters, and rooftop solar panels. $50 billion for environmental justice investments in marginalized communities. $250 boost to the Department of Energy's loan programs, which finances a lot of these clean energy technology programs that aren't, really yet commercially viable. It hikes costs for fossil fuel development. Right now, companies that drill and frack on federal lands pay 12.5% of the value of the stuff they pull out of the ground. It raises that to 16.66%. It also tackles emissions from methane. Methane is one of the most problematics of the greenhouse gases. It's 80 times more potent a greenhouse gas than CO2, although its half-life is only 20 years. A methane fee would fine companies for emitting methane over a certain amount, and it sets up a new $850 million methane emissions reduction program, which contains grants and loans for oil and gas companies to monitor and reduce their methane emissions, writes Julie Rock over at levernews.com. It also contains a number of tax increases to offset the federal budget deficit. The carried interest loophole is tightened but not eliminated. It would require private equity managers to hold investments for 5 years instead of the 3 years currently. It also contains a 15% minimum tax for corporations, but there's a loophole for that too. You can use tax credits and operating losses against that. There's an $80 billion additional funding for the IRS to go after delinquent taxpayers. Right now, if you are super rich, you are 87.5% less likely to be audited than in 2010. And 5 times less likely to be audited than poor Americans. And the IRS says that's because they just don't have the budget to do the audits of these wealthy people who have, like Donald Trump, the Trump company is over 800 companies. It's like Enron. It's a shell game, where he's moving money around from company to company to avoid taxes. And so this would enable the IRS finally to actually look at companies like his. So we'll see. We'll see if it gets passed. The Republicans are fuming mad right now. They've shot down the veterans who were exposed to burn pits and have cancer and lung disease. They shot that down yesterday. Jon Stewart went ballistic all over the media about it. Josh Hawley and Ted Cruz fist-bummed each other on the floor of the Senate after they eliminated funding for veterans who were literally standing outside in the gallery with their oxygen tanks, people who are dying from their exposure to these burn pits, and Josh Hawley and Ted Cruz are fist-bumping. Yeah, we screwed those veterans. We screwed them good. We'll show those Democrats. And this is all because they're all pissed off because Joe Manchin and Chuck Schumer rolled out this bill that I just told you about a moment ago. Pat Toomey, actually, the Republican from Pennsylvania, who is retiring, so he can just screw anybody he wants. He doesn't care. Seems to be the main guy behind all this, but apparently it was Josh Hawley and Ted Cruz. And of course, Mitch McConnell, who were really the forces behind trying to blow up the funds going to sickened veterans from the Iraq and Afghanistan wars. These guys just have no conscience, no humanity, it seems. It's just breathtaking. So let's pick up your phone calls. As I said, it's Anything Goes Friday. Jackie in Grass Valley, California. Hey, Jackie, what's up?
Hi. Hey, I'm so glad to talk to you just for a minute. I'm calling because I saw a story a little earlier about Kentucky, Mitch McConnell and Rand Paul's state is underwater, those big floods there.
Yep.
They just got too much water. I hope that convinces them there is a climate crisis going on.
Yeah, I would hope so, too. I doubt it will because, you're fighting against millions of dollars in the fossil fuel industry, but yeah.
Oh, God, it's really, I mean, their houses are underwater.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And they, Michael Mann on there, explaining what's going on, how fast this climate crisis is hitting us.
Yep.
But that's the concern I'm calling about. But you talked about so many issues that I care about, but I'm not, I just want to say good job. That's why I watch you.
Okay. Thank you, Jackie. Thank you very much for your kind words. And yes, I agree. I am very hopeful that as climate change starts whacking these red states, the citizens of those red states will wake the hell up. Of course, they're not going to hear the words climate change out of anybody's mouth on Fox News, and that's pretty much all they watch. So it's still going to be a big lift. But amen to you, Jackie. Thank you. Lisa in Trevor, Wisconsin. Hey, Lisa, what's on your mind today?
Hi, I had to make another call. Once again, women are being reduced to nothing more than being an incubator, where the fetus is given priority over her own life and even her ability to get prescriptions when she may not even be pregnant. I'm so outraged, I can't even tell you. But my call basically is aimed at women. I'm hoping that women are going to listen. Women of childbearing age who are in heterosexual relationships. I have two recommendations. First, follow the lead of women in Iceland. In case you're not familiar with it, Iceland is, at least in the past, has been considered one of the most feminist societies on the planet. And many people don't get married there. They have children. In fact, 67% of all babies born in 2017 were born to unmarried parents. And there's no stigma regarding the unwed pregnancies because few Icelanders are religious. And as an atheist, I find that a lot of things that go on in this country the bad things are, in my mind, attributed to religion, and what the right is doing is just horrible. But anyway, so I wanted to say that women should consider not getting married, live with your partner, have the kids with your partner, because if they're going to start telling you that you can't get divorced if you're pregnant, then, well, let's not get married to begin with, or get divorced if you're already married and continue to live with your partner. My second recommendation is, if you don't want to have a baby anytime in the near future, then insist that your partner, a heterosexual partner, get a vasectomy.
Yep.
And why should the onus be on women altogether? And most vasectomies nowadays can be reversed. I'm so furious, in case you can't hear my voice.
I got it.
It's insane. But anyway, that's my piece. Thank you.
And I will add to the men who are listening, I got a vasectomy 20 years ago or more, 30 years ago. And no big deal, and it certainly liberates everybody in the relationship. So, Lisa, thank you for the call, and amen. I'm absolutely with you. It's 16 minutes past the hour. It's Anything Goes Friday. We'll be back with more of your calls in just a moment. Stick around.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
It's Talk Media for the sane among us. Yes, we're still here. Back with your calls right after this. And welcome back. John in Oak Park, Illinois. Hey, John, what's up?
I just had a sort of out-of-the-box idea where the lady who has found herself pregnant, and therefore the standing goes to the unborn entity, she has to do everything, very little is left in her toolbox to defend against, any action she may take. What if she went and took the stand your ground concept? There is someone who is interfering and may, take her life. Doesn't she have recourse in any way she seems fit to prevent her life from being taken or
That's
damaged?
An interesting
or even
reframe.
left?
Yeah, that's fascinating.
And it's already on the books.
Yeah, I think that we are so far down this road that it's not probably introducing that idea would not go very far. But I find it fascinating. I'd never thought of it in those terms. But yeah,
I didn't either.
The woman should have the right to defend herself against a fetus that could kill her.
Right, and the interpretation of stand your ground seems to be very loose. In other words, it's applied very haphazardly where there may not be such huge medical preponderance for her to prove if she didn't include this defense. Right. I mean, this is for protection for the doctor who, hey, if she was in, like the other guy was saying about organ failure, anything impending,
Yeah, no, I get it. I get it. Thanks for raising that, John. I'll keep that on my radar as I'm browsing through the news, and maybe something like that will pop up. That's a fascinating idea. John, thank you. Jen in Webster, New York. Hey, Jen, what's up?
Hey, Tom. I just want to call in response to a little follow-up on the call that Mike made to you regarding getting the word out and signing people up for solar panels on residential homes. My husband and I did it a few years ago, and one of my hurdles to actually make the decision to do it was I abhor paperwork. And what I was pleased to find out was that the company that we contracted with takes care of all that paperwork, all the grant applications, the tax credit applications. They file it all for you. So that was off my plate. So that was huge.
Great.
I just wanted to, it really helped me out.
Louise and I looked into this for our house, and it turns out we just, our roof isn't oriented and we've got a flat roof, and it just, it probably won't work. Yeah. But what surprised me was when we were calling solar contractors to see if we could get quotes, most of the ones that we contacted here in Portland were like, we can't even talk to you for 6 months or a year.
Yeah, they're that busy.
Yeah, or they can't get the solar panels. That was the other problem. Some were, were just overwhelmed, and others were, we can't get the solar panels. But it's great that it's happening around the country, and we really, this is, again, Jimmy Carter, he wanted to jumpstart the solar power industry in the United States. Reagan, took it down and ended that. But had he done that, I mean, the problem is that so many of these panels are made in China right now. And, they're the world's largest manufacturer of solar panels. So we need some domestic manufacturing.
Back here.
Yep. Jen, thank you. Thanks for the call. And thanks for weighing in on that. That's a great story. It's 20 minutes past the hour. We'll be right back with more of your calls here on the Thom Hartmann Program. Speaking the truth, the multinational corporations would really rather you didn't know all about. Stick around. Missed my opening rant today? It's usually published over at HartmannReport.com, where you can read it and share it with your friends for free. Check it out, HartmannReport.com. Indeed. Welcome back, 21 minutes past the hour. Jim in Long Beach, California. Hey, Jim, thanks for listening to the Thom Hartmann app. What's up?
Hi, Tom. A story that's it's been going around for some years. But Monsanto and Cargill and DuPont, they bought an area in the Ukraine, in prime land, production wheat land, the size about a third of the Ukraine. That's 170,000 square kilometers, wow, which is 400 by 400 square kilometers, which is about half of the entire state of California, which is about just as much agricultural land as Italy has.
Wow.
And they want to produce, of course, what they are going to produce in there is genetically modified wheat, which is a threat to humanity and to all of the legacy of genetic diversity that we have. And also is using glyphosate, which is another threat to water, rivers, animals, plants, and everything else.
Yeah, yeah, fascinating. I had no idea, Jim. So, did they do like here in the United States back in the '80s when Reagan stopped enforcing the antitrust laws? These giant agricultural companies, Cargill and whatnot. I'm not sure specifically Cargill was the one, but there were a bunch of these big ag companies that just started buying U.S. farms and then hiring the farm families to continue to live in their house, only they're now renting the house and they're now working the farm. Is that the sort of thing that happened in Ukraine?
It looks like it's the capital behind it. It's American Vanguard, BlackRock, which everybody should know by now, and Blackstone. So these are the companies financing and providing. On the other hand, also China is buying land in the Ukraine. So there is a lot more to the story that's going on in the Ukraine that it's not in the news, and nothing to be really alarmed about that because that's what's going on. They are leading the news actually what's going on in the world. that this is a threat to world production, and especially Russia. Recently, they banned GMOs and glyphosate, and they said no, that was less than 10 years ago. Thank you very much. We don't want that technology.
Yeah.
And I suspect the reason they did that is that we are not falling for the illusions and the plutocracy and the oligarchy from the West, which is chemical branded and GMO.
Right. Or they're developing their own. I mean, who knows?
They might.
But, I think it was to keep Monsanto out, yeah. Jim, I have to move along, but thank you for the call, and thanks for sharing that information. I had no idea. Philip in Westchester, Illinois. Hey, Philip, what's up?
Thank you, Tom. I'm a longtime listener, and I love your show, and you do have the brightest and best-hearted people and listeners in the world.
Thank you. I agree.
I am frustrated with the idea that we are arguing with fascists. If you don't call the Republicans and things like the Republicans, the guys in Europe where the people went, pardon me, I have aphasia, like I said, from a stroke, wherever that guy was, the guy they're over visiting and the CPAC went to and all that stuff.
You're talking Viktor Orban in Hungary.
Fascism.
Yeah.
Right. I can't think of those things. They don't come to me because of the stroke. But, right. So those are the types of things that my father discussed with German and Italian prisoners. Why did you go to Ethiopia? Why did you join the army? Well, because there was no money. Yep. And it was hard to get a job. And so we're going to send you down to Ethiopia and have you chemical bomb Ethiopians. That's going to happen here. It's happening here, except it's slow motion. The corporations are chemical bombing us. We have fascism. We think about that instead of things we could think about. You remember on this very show I heard about the potential generation of solar power at the Lagrange points in orbit. That was in the 60s that was designed, by the way, and beam it back to Earth. Okay, it would be all done. It still could be in 20 years. There was except for the fascists, there was a fellow back in the 90s. I can't remember now. I'm sorry. I'm almost 70 and had the stroke and all this other stuff go on. There was this guy that said that you could feed the entire world. We made enough food to feed the entire world, right? Back in like 98 for the first time that we produced enough. But guess what? There were still hungry people. Why? Because there was no money in getting it to them. Okay? I am just about sick of three people. The three people you talk about, the rich guys, right, that have as much as the bottom, 50%, right?
Half of Americans.
The bottom half,
Three
right?
men have as much wealth as the bottom half of Americans.
This is something
which Dwight Eisenhower would not have tolerated. So, Philip, I got to run, but thank you for the call. Yeah, it's a problem. It's a problem. We'll be back with your calls on Anything Goes Friday here. Stick around. It's the Thom Hartmann Program. What did I say before? Oh, yeah, helping you win the water cooler wars. There you go. We'll be right back. Now that we're back to our water coolers, we'll be right back.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
It's the place where we dare to ask, is Monsanto a person? And we dare to say, no, not a chance. Come on, give me a break.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Hey, it's $5 Friday here on Free Speech TV. It's your opportunity to be a superhero and help this little network that could, this little television network, really, really blossom, really, really grow, because Free Speech TV is like, central for all kinds of cool stuff. $5 Friday. What is $5 Friday? $5 Friday is all about your making a commitment to send $5 in every month for a year or more. It's you know, it's very simple. You call 877-378-8669. Say, I would like to be part of $5 Friday. I want to contribute to Free Speech TV. And they'll take your credit card and your information, and it'll just automatically ding your credit card $5 a month for the next 12 months, or as long as you want to specify. It's very straightforward. It allows you to become a member of the sustaining donor community, which is kind of a cool thing. And the first 5 people who call to do this every half hour will get a Free Speech TV mystery box in the mail. I have no idea what's in it. It's a mystery, but hey, it's a surprise. So there's that. And, you know, on Free Speech TV, you actually hear the real message. You hear the story of what's going on. You learn to understand, as it were, how screwed up in some ways our system is, that we've given so much power to in particular in the Senate. Jon Stewart, for example, just yesterday went off on this. There's a veterans bill to help sick veterans, and Republicans just blocked it. And he just went nuts. I mean, he's very, very upset about this. This is the kind of stuff that we talk about on this network, this, you know, broadly speaking. In fact, here's Jon Stewart just laying it out.
So ain't this a bitch? Ain't this a bitch? America's heroes who fought in our wars, outside sweating their asses off, with oxygen, battling all kinds of ailments, while these motherfuckers sit in the air conditioning, walled off from any of it. They don't have to hear it. They don't have to see it. They don't have to understand that these are human beings. Do you get it yet? Do we see that these aren't heroes? These are men and women, mothers and fathers, sisters and brothers, that we just let stand outside in the heat when they can't breathe. I'm going to read you something. This is beautiful. I'm going to read you something beautiful. You know what? I said a curse word, and I'm sorry about that. That was my fault. Let me say something beautiful. This is a tweet from Senator Rick Scott of Florida from yesterday. It's beautiful. And I'm sorry about the cursing, and let me say something beautiful to make it up to you. I was honored to join the USO today and make care packages for our brave military members in gratitude of their sacrifice and service to our nation. And there's a beautiful picture. I wish you could see it. He's standing with a little package. Did you get the package? I think it has M&Ms in it and some cookies. Didn't get it. And some moist towelettes. I don't even know, honestly, I don't even know what to say. I've been coming down here 10, 15 years. I'm used to the hypocrisy. Christina Keene will tell you from VFW. She sat in an office with Mitch McConnell and a war veteran from Kentucky, and he looked that man in the eyes and he said, we'll get it done. And he lied to him. Because Mitch McConnell yesterday flipped. I'm used to the lies. I'm used to the hypocrisy. Senator Pat Toomey won't take a meeting with the veterans groups. Sends out his chief of staff. I'm used to the cowardice. I've been here a long time. Senate's where accountability goes to die. These people don't care. They're never losing their jobs. They're never losing their health care. Pat Toomey didn't lose his job. He's walking away. God knows what kind of pot of gold he's stepping into to lobby this government to shit on more people.
And that was Jon Stewart talking about how upset he is that the Republicans are basically doing nothing and there's no accountability for them. So where do you find that kind of information? Where can we have a conversation about how corrupt our political system, in particular the Republican Party, has become? Although there's a few corrupt Democrats too. We need to own that and do something about it. We talk about that here. It's one of those rare spaces where we can talk about those things. So please call now, 877-378-8669, and sign up for $5 Friday and become part of the army, as it were, of us, the group of us who are pushing back against the Republicans who want to, harm our veterans or at least not help them out. There is so much that we need to do and so far to go. Please call now, 877-378-8669. Thank you. Our 1-hour free podcast recaps our show, and it's available wherever fine podcasts are found. And we have the full 3-hour podcast available over at thomhartmann.com if you want to really support our program. So the Democratic Party has brought us the women's right to vote, Social Security, the minimum wage law, unemployment insurance, the Rural Electrification Act, the FDIC bank account insurance, GI Bill of Rights. These were all things, by the way, majority of Democrats brought us, majority of Republicans opposed. GI Bill of Rights, Security and Exchange Act, Marshall Plan, NATO, the School Lunch Program, the Water Quality Act, the Peace Corps, the First Man on the Moon, Civil Rights Act of '64, Voting Rights Act of '65, Medicare, Medicaid, Guaranteed Pell Student Loan Programs, Operation Head Start, Workman's Comp, Motor Voter Act, Clinton Budget Surplus, Family and Leave Medical Act, and the Affordable Care Act. And the Republicans have brought us, for average working people, the Republicans have accomplished, as far as I can tell, nothing. Nothing. Well, they had tax cuts for billionaires. There's a whole video about it over at thomhartmann.com. Check it out. 35 minutes past the hour, picking up your call. Sandy in Denver, Colorado. Hey, Sandy, what's up?
Hi, Tom. I wanted to, first of all, thank you for a great show and all the books you've written.
Thank you.
They're very powerful. And I had a couple of things to bring up. I'm hoping that the new CHIPS bill will help with the CPAP machines. I don't know if you're aware that millions of machines were recalled June of 2021.
No, I didn't know that.
And so many of them haven't been replaced or fixed because apparently they take a chip, which I thought we would have been able to manufacture, but apparently not. So I'm hoping that gets resolved for those of us who need those.
Yeah.
And then one of the, or several callers have called in this week about the drugs and the cost of prescriptions. And I started taking Eliquis last fall, and it was like $500 or $600 a month. So my dad turned me on to Farm Store in Canada, and now I get a 3-month supply for $140, which is much better than I would be paying here.
Wow. So is Farm Store the name of a pharmacy, or are you buying it from a horse doctor?
No, it's actually, there's a website called farmstore.com. It's PHARMSTORE.
Oh, PH. I thought FARM.
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
All right.
No animals involved, I don't think. Yeah, so that's worked out well for me. And they even have a referral program. If you refer someone, you get like $10 off your order or credit.
And the U.S. government doesn't try to track you down and bust you for getting things through the mail illegally?
Well, I've been doing it for over 6 months. So far, so good.
Okay. Well, I'll let you know, Sandy, if the FBI calls us and wants your... I'm just kidding.
But other people should be able to take advantage of that. And they do have other drugs, too, that they can check on if they have other high ones. I can't guarantee they carry everything.
Yeah, this is a long-standing thing. I'm sorry.
Wonderful customer service, better than the United States.
Yeah, that's great. When Louise and I lived in Vermont, we used to live in Montpelier, and I think it was like the first Saturday of every month, Bernie, this was when he was, member of the House of Representatives. This was like 20 years ago. And Bernie would come down every week or every month, and there would be all these senior citizens who would come down and get in a bus. And sometimes Bernie went with them. More often than not, he didn't. But, he would show up and do a little song and dance. And they'd hop on the bus and they'd drive up to Montreal. It was about a 2.5-hour drive from Montpelier, and buy their prescriptions and have lunch at a nice restaurant, and 50, 60, 70 seniors, and then come back. And it's just crazy that we have to do that. That our bought-off politicians have rigged our laws in a way to protect one particular industry, the pharmaceutical industry. And we pay up to 10 times more for the same drugs than any other developed country in the world. It's amazing, it's obscene, it's wrong, And, you know, it's great that this new legislation is going to allow Medicare to negotiate on 10 drugs, but, you know, there's
Only 10?
more than 10. Exactly. I mean, really?
Some people take 10.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. So, Sandy, thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that story with us.
Yeah.
I appreciate
it.
it.
And also, we're having a big women's march in Denver on September 24th. I hope other cities are also having it, and I hope all women will join in.
Great. Is there a website for that?
Make our voices heard. There's a Facebook page. It's a local group that's putting it on, so I don't know offhand.
Okay. So keep your eyes open for women's marches around the country. Great. Sandy, thank you. Thank you again. It's great to hear from you. Mike in Anchorage, Alaska. Hey, Mike, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. The few times that you've mentioned independent voters, you have referred to us as uninformed. And I think you have that backwards because people who just vote all the R's or all the D's because they're not going to vote the other way don't necessarily pay strict attention to the issues.
Oh, you're right about that.
Those of us who are unaffiliated or unaffiliated for a reason. I grew up in a Republican family, and I was registered Republican forever until one time I decided that I didn't want to be labeled as having those certain beliefs. But I'm looking right now at a Gallup poll that they run periodically, and from farther back than 2000, but through June of 2022, there have been substantially more independent voters than either Democrats or Republicans.
You're right.
And for instance, from June 1st to 20th of 2022, there were 27% Republicans and 27% Democrats and 43% independents. So I think we get kind of overlooked. In fact, I wanted to volunteer at the Democratic headquarters a couple of years ago, and they said I would have to change my registration to Democrat in order to do that. And I have been a registered Democrat for a couple of days, twice. Once so I could caucus for Obama and once so I could caucus for Bernie. But then I went back and...
Is Alaska a closed primary state?
Pardon?
Is Alaska a closed primary state?
Well, it has been. I'm not sure if they did just change that or not. We've had a lot of a lot of elections.
Yeah, that's the big
because we're
variable.
filling Don Young's seat and
but that's the big variable there, Mike. Is that in a state where you've got a closed primary, you can only vote in the primary if you're registered with the party. That's about half of our states.
Right.
And so it makes less sense to be an independent in those states because you want to have a say in the party that you care close or you feel closest to. But in a state that's an open primary state, then there's much less need to register as a Democrat or Republican. I get it.
Well, the last time I worked the polls to vote in the Republican Party, you had to be a registered Republican, but to vote anything else, you could be registered as anything. But I do think that we have to pay more attention to the issues, and I just wish there were more attention paid to independence because I think we're pretty critical voters.
Oh, you guys, you're the people who swing the elections.
Yes.
A lot of attention needs to be paid to independent voters. My hit on low information voters is not specifically on people who are not registered with one of the parties, and it's not even intended as a slur or a slam. I acknowledge that particularly people in their 30s and 40s who are trying to raise families and in some cases working 2 and 3 jobs, and they just don't have time to be involved in politics or keep up with politics. And it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate, and it's unfortunate that we don't. Australia has mandatory voting basically. If you don't vote, it's like a traffic ticket, and and they have like 97, 98% voting compliance. We're around 50 or 60% depending on the election. But I would like to see people more involved.
I would too, but you want you want informed voters. I was talking to someone the other day who said she was going to vote for a replacement for Don Young because she used to work in an office with this person who's running, and she was a nice person. And and you know, when I vote, if there's an issue about which I'm not informed or I haven't it's not as relative to me, I don't vote on that issue because I figure that the people who are more informed on that issue have, you know, a better perspective than I have. But
so, Mike, do you think that Sarah Palin is going to be your next representative?
Oh Lord, I hope not.
Yeah. Okay, Mike, I need to move along. It's great talking with you, and thanks for you know, being an informed voter, regardless of party. Thank you. Bill in Clifton, New Jersey. Hey, Bill, what's on your mind?
Too much, I think. I've been looking at the science, and it's time to brush up on your quantum mechanics if you can do much more reporting, because I've been reading up on the thermoelectric generators, or the new breed of them, and they're based in quantum science. Are you familiar with the Seebeck effect?
I'm not.
Okay, there's these little modules I used to buy for my computers 25 years ago called Peltier modules, and they're ceramic. And the effect is that if you put power through a conductor, two conductors, each one is a different metal like bismuth and copper or something, it will generate a thermoelectric change of 40 degrees difference between one side and the other. So they're used to cool CPUs, but that's old stuff. Now they are doing something based upon, if you understand electrons, there's something called spin. And in regular copper wiring, there's a lot of energy that's lost through heat, or it's just that the electrons are not aligned properly. This technology takes advantage of the spin on electrons and harvests even more electricity. So instead of having solar panels, you're going to have thermoelectric panels that work off the heat being generated, which lasts a lot longer than the sun and are
well, I'm looking forward to it, Bill. It sounds great. It's 46 minutes past the hour.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archives.
It's Anything Goes Friday. Back with your calls right after this. And welcome back. Johan in Los Angeles. Hey, Johan, what's up?
I would like to add for the climate change and water. I think we have been living under a lie about the Colorado River when this scientist named called John Wesley Powell, he was traveling along the river and he figured that there is not enough water to supply the land.
You're talking about 100 years ago, right?
130 years ago, like 1893.
That's what I thought. Excuse me, I'm looking for a piece of paper here. Keep going.
Yeah, I don't know how they ignored this particular conclusion and misled like entire 7 states. And now almost completely gone now, and now Salt Lake is almost dried up, and we have history that the Salton Sea is completely dried up, and I don't think people have learned the lesson.
Humans have a long history of only responding to crises, not responding proactively. And I think you've identified it, Johan, and I agree. It's a tragedy, and yes, the people have been saying for a long, long time that this shall not stand. The thing that we have been all relying on is that technology will save us. And this salvationistic thinking that something will save us when we're kind of sleepwalking into known disasters, warned about disasters, is just nuts. Johan, thank you. Thank you very much. Jeff in Portland. Hey, Jeff, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom, another excellent show. And I especially recommend your Hartmann report yesterday on free trade. And pursuant to today and yesterday's discussion, you know, in my opinion, if we want to avoid a dystopian future with the earth on fire and our country ravaged by income inequality and fascist rule, then, you know, as you say, we need to rapidly transition to a green economy with well-paid manufacturing jobs made in America here. And to do that, we got to take on the two forces fighting against those green living wage jobs. And those two are, A, the anti-worker, anti-union GOP, who always side with corporate power and against workers, and B, Jerome Powell and the Fed, who he's being cheered on by quintessential neoliberals like Larry Summers, who want to keep pushing interest rates higher and higher, which will only drive unemployment up to 6%, which would be about 4 million lost jobs, all while suppressing wages. And the economist Mark Weisbrot, he has an excellent piece about that on Common Dreams today. But my question for you, Tom, is should President Biden sit back and watch Jerome Powell, a Republican, as you always point out, should Biden watch this guy crush the working class and American families, or should the president step in and put a Democratic nominee in charge of the Fed?
I think if Biden were to fire Powell, it would collapse markets. I mean, it would be. You just don't do things like that. I share your sentiment, Jeff. Your lack of trust in Powell, and I'm with Robert Reich and a number of other progressive economists who are saying, you know, he's not doing the right thing and he's not doing it in the right way. But I just think it's like a less than 1% possibility, not even probability, that Biden might do that.
Well, I think if he lets it play out where we lose 4 million jobs, that's going to, you know, really hurt our chances in 2024.
I agree. And I think that might be what Powell is thinking about. Jeff, I got to run. Hey, I've got a new book out. It's called The Hidden History of Big Brother in America, How the Death of Privacy and the Rise of Surveillance Threaten Us and Our Democracy. Available wherever you find fine books. Welcome back. 9 minutes before the hour. Larry in Los Angeles. Hey, Larry, what's on your mind today?
Hi, the economy.
Okay, go for it.
What I'm looking at is on Bloomberg, you know, for 6 months now, they have been telling us that we are in a recession. And for 6 months, they have been really pounding the fact that the Fed was going to increase the Fed rate. That drove the consumer confidence down to a point where it's below where it was when Donald Trump was actually in a recession.
Right.
Basically, they are the story, but they're not going to talk about it. They did their best to try to give Biden a recession. It didn't work. I should point out that it's very difficult for this media and the Fed chair to give us a recession when the fundamentals are not there. And I can too when Jimmy Carter was president. And he had his very short recession. It was so short, in fact, he still saw 10 million jobs created. But it was only 2 quarters, just like the shortest recessions we've ever had have always only been 2 quarters. But and that was when Jimmy Carter actually had some things that was built into his economy. For instance, back then, around 1980, when I was trying to get a CD, a $10,000 CD, I was trying to save my money up fast enough so I could get this 30-month CD. They were paying at one point, for 1 week, they were paying 20% on a 30-month CD. And I missed it, and by the time I got my money saved up, I could only get 14%.
Right.
But see, that was actually built into the economy. That not only was did Jimmy Carter see high interest rates, he also saw high inflation. But it was built in because the banks were giving you interest that would also match that inflation. That's not happening now. This is weird inflation that we're having right now.
Yeah.
And I think it's primarily it came as a result of what Powell was doing when he was giving us that fascism or quantitative easing.
Yeah.
Or again, what I like to call reparations for corporations.
Well, except that it's happening all around the world. I mean, yes, I don't think the Fed helped matters, with their super loose money policies, particularly during the last year of the Trump administration. But this is a supply issue as much as anything else. This is emerging from COVID. This is like the end of World War II.
I get that, but here's the thing: we've never had a recession where we were talking about supply chain issues, or we're talking about exports is giving us a recession. Those things never came into the picture. These things are coming into the picture because of what the Fed was doing, and giving these corporations this billions of dollars. And he did something he said he would not do. He said he would not keep doing quantitative easing and then raise the Fed rate at the same time. Well, guess what? For about 3 months, he did just that.
You're right. Yep.
And when he's doing that, what's happening is these corporations they can kind of forget how to make a profit. So because the Fed is giving them so much, just pumping so much money up their rear, they can sit back and not pay attention to their core business. And so when the Fed started cutting that money back, some of these companies started saying, "Oh my goodness, now I got to really run my company like a company."
Right.
And look, my prices may not be just right now. Yeah. Now that I'm losing that Fed money, I now have to raise my prices.
I'm with you, Larry. There are so many factors right now that are distorting our economy, and most of them have been built into law or policy as a consequence of a particular special interest or industry. And the banks at the top of that list. I'm with you. Larry, thank you. Thanks for that summary. I need to move along, but thank you. Michelle in Chicago. Hey, Michelle, what's up?
Hey, I just want to respond to what Vance said about women staying with abusive husbands.
Yeah, J.D. Vance, the guy who wants to be the next senator from Ohio, said that you should stay with your abusive husband for the kids.
Well, that's ignorant. I'm a clinical psychologist. I've worked with the Department of Children and Family Services here in Illinois for 30 years. And in Illinois, if a woman stays in such a situation, she is at risk of having her children removed because the department and the courts believe it's very dangerous for the children, and they view the woman as not protecting her children for not leaving this person.
Yeah. Well, this is what happens when you get hedge fund managers who want to run for the Senate. Yeah.
Right. But I'm just saying that any woman who listens to that or thinks that it's very dangerous.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Thank you. That's all I want to say.
Thank you, Michelle. You said it very well. Thank you. Sherry in Carrollton, Georgia. Hey, Sherry, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom. I've been listening to you since Air America.
Well, thank you. We just have a little less than a minute, Sherry, if you've got a quick one.
Okay. I'm taking a prescription that cost me $450 a month.
Wow.
And
that's rent.
Otherwise, I would have to pay over $1,000 for it.
Incredible.
I received a letter from my prescription insurance company saying that they will leave it at $450 a month if I will stay with them next year.
Huh. I don't know what to advise you, Sherry. It's just another horror story. Sherry, I'm sorry we're out of time, but thank you for the call, and thanks for listening to SiriusXM. Wow. Special thanks to Louise Hartman, Sean Taylor, Nate Atwell, Jamie Holly, Joyce the Hammer, Nance, Nigel Peacock, Sue Nethercutt, Patrick Hoyt, Geraldine Halbert, Ron Hartenbaum, Chase Spross, Nicholas Miller, Pat Sweeney, Al Gorilla Rhythm, Jay LeBlanc, Connor Arreo, and Carne Verde. All the folks who helped make this program work for you and me. And special thanks to you for listening or watching our program and sharing the good word with other people, letting our stations know you're listening, letting our sponsors know that you support our program. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend. Get out there, get active, tag You're It. I'll see you on Monday.
You've been listening to Thom Hartmann. For audio and video archives, visit thomhartmann.com.
It's $5 Friday here on Free Speech TV. It's your opportunity to be a superhero and help this little network that could, this little television network, really, really blossom, really, really grow, because Free Speech TV is like, central for all kinds of cool stuff. $5 Friday. What is $5 Friday? $5 Friday is all about your making a commitment to send $5 in every month for a year or more. It's, you know, it's very simple. You call 877-378-8669. Say, I would like to be part of $5 Friday. I want to contribute to Free Speech TV. And they'll take your credit card and your information, and it'll just automatically ding your credit card $5 a month for the next 12 months, or as long as you want to specify. It's very straightforward. It allows you to become a member of the sustaining donor community, which is kind of a cool thing. And the first 5 people who call to do this every half hour will get a Free Speech TV mystery box in the mail. I have no idea what's in it. It's a mystery, but hey, it's a surprise. So there's that. And, you know, on Free Speech TV, you actually hear the real message. You hear the story of what's going on. You learn to understand, as it were, how screwed up in some ways our system is, that we've given so much power to in particular in the Senate. Jon Stewart, for example, just yesterday went off on this. There's a veterans bill to help sick veterans, and Republicans just blocked it. And he just went nuts. I mean, he's very, very upset about this. This is the kind of stuff that we talk about on this network, this, you know, broadly speaking. In fact, here's Jon Stewart just laying it out.
So ain't this a bitch? Ain't this a bitch? America's heroes who fought in our wars, outside sweating their asses off, with oxygen, battling all kinds of ailments, while these motherfuckers sit in the air conditioning, walled off from any of it. They don't have to hear it. They don't have to see it. They don't have to understand that these are human beings. Do you get it yet? Do we see that these aren't heroes? These are men and women, mothers and fathers, sisters and brothers, that we just let stand outside in the heat when they can't breathe. I'm going to read you something. This is beautiful. I'm going to read you something beautiful. You know what? I said a curse word, and I'm sorry about that. That was my fault. Let me say something beautiful. This is a tweet from Senator Rick Scott of Florida from yesterday. It's beautiful. And I'm sorry about the cursing, and let me say something beautiful to make it up to you. I was honored to join the USO today and make care packages for our brave military members in gratitude of their sacrifice and service to our nation. And there's a beautiful picture. I wish you could see it. He's standing with a little package. Did you get the package? I think it has M&Ms in it and some cookies and some moist towelettes. I don't even know, honestly, I don't even know what to say. I've been coming down here 10, 15 years. I'm used to the hypocrisy. Christina Keene will tell you from VFW. She sat in an office with Mitch McConnell and a war veteran from Kentucky, and he looked that man in the eyes and he said, we'll get it done. And he lied to him. Because Mitch McConnell yesterday flipped. I'm used to the lies. I'm used to the hypocrisy. Senator Pat Toomey won't take a meeting with the veterans groups. Sends out his chief of staff. I'm used to the cowardice. I've been here a long time. Senate's where accountability goes to die. These people don't care. They're never losing their jobs. They're never losing their health care. Pat Toomey didn't lose his job. He's walking away. God knows what kind of pot of gold he's stepping into to lobby this government to shit on more people.
And that was Jon Stewart talking about how upset he is that the Republicans are basically doing nothing and there's no accountability for them. So where do you find that kind of information? Where can we have a conversation about how corrupt our political system, in particular the Republican Party, has become? Although there's a few corrupt Democrats too. We need to own that and do something about it. We talk about that here. It's one of those rare spaces where we can talk about those things. So please call now, 877-378-8669, and sign up for $5 Friday and become part of the army, as it were, of us, the group of us who are pushing back against the Republicans who want to, harm our veterans or at least not help them out. There is so much that we need to do and so far to go. Please call now, 877-378-8669. Thank you. In addition to bringing you the Thom Hartmann Program here on Free Speech TV and Video Media Online, we also have a whole set of ways you can interact with us and tools you can use to spread the word about the importance of democracy and the threats to it in our republic. First, there's your daily homework. Sue Nethercutt puts together a daily email newsletter that has a link to every story I discuss on the air, so you can find my sources and you can share them with your friends. It's free and you can sign up at thomhartmann.com. Second, I publish my daily take every day over at the hartmannreport.com website. That's also free if you want the daily 5 days a week rant in your inbox. No ads either. Third, we have the podcasts. There's the free 1-hour version of our daily show that's advertising supported. You can find that wherever you get your podcasts normally. And then there's also the podcast of the entire 3-hour show with no advertisements, and that's available by subscription over at thomhartmann.com. So check them all out at thomhartmann.com and hartmannreport.com.